Chapter 505. Sun Hao's feeling was completely correct, but couldn't change anything at this moment. Lin Jun's star power was not much inferior to his. The combination of the main body and the clone, coupled with extremely rich combat experience and a variety of methods, made Sun Hao completely fall into a disadvantage as soon as he came up. Lin Jun's main body and doppelganger's joint attack method had reached the point of perfection, often within 0.1 seconds after the main body spear. The doppelganger could pinpoint this time period and attack the place where Sun Hao must save. And just after blocking this spear, the main body's attack came again. This cycle did not give the opponent any time to breathe. There was never a chance to rest. If there was a little negligence, he would die on the spot. In particular, Lin Jun felt that Sun Hao seemed to have some killing move to use. He didn't give Sun Hao such a chance at all. Powerful killing moves such as Thunder Kill, Fan and God Strike, and so on were not used at all because the speed was slow. Using speed to fight speed, seamlessly connecting the previous blow and the next blow, facing a strong opponent, this was the best way to fight. Although he didn't know what Sun Hao's killing move was under Lin Jun's attack, he had no chance to make a move at all. Although Sun Hao was a level 2 galaxy, he was still a human after all, not a machine. Under such pressure, mistakes were inevitable. Especially when Lin Jun used time acceleration, he completely couldn't adapt. The main body accelerated 10 times. The clone accelerated 10 times. This kind of acceleration in the fierce battle was fatal. Sun Hao was careless, and a big hole was immediately opened in his abdomen. Before the scream ended, Lin Jun's killing move came again. Time deceleration. The clone accelerated 10 times and decelerated Sun Hao 10 times at the same time. Normally, Sun Hao still had a chance to deal with it, but at this time, it was a dream to deal with it calmly. He wanted to struggle with the last teleportation, but it was ruthlessly interrupted by Lin Jun. Although Sun Hao was also in the galaxy stage, his spiritual power had not reached 100% of Sky Blue. Spiritual Evil Spirit Attack. The impact after the interruption made Sun Hao, who was decelerated 10 times by Lin Jun, as slow as a snail. He could no longer block the clone's spear. Puff! A red flower bloomed in Sun Hao's heart, and a little heart blood spurted out. Sun Hao staggered back a few steps, and his eyes began to slacken. That's impossible. He had a lot of skills, but under the combined attack of Lin Jun and his doppelganger, whose astral powers were not inferior to his own, he had no chance to use them at all. His spiritual power was also suppressed, so this result was inevitable. Nothing is impossible. Although the realm of a warrior is very important, the realm is not everything. Let me go. Save me. Enslave me. Cough, cough. Your spiritual power is so strong. You can do it. Lin Jun smiled and shook his head. Unfortunately, you don't even have the right to be my slave. However, I can let you go to a new world. Sun Hao's eyes lit up, thinking that Lin Jun was going to let him go. Lin Jun waved his hand, and Sun Hao was taken into the dark star space. His avatar, which had been hungry and thirsty for a long time, immediately followed in. Lin Jun felt a strong desire to devour from his doppelganger. Sun Hao was a level 2 nebula, and the energy contained in his body was definitely a great supplement for his doppelganger. Moreover, he was a living person, so the effect of devouring was undoubtedly better. Of course, Lin Jun still couldn't do something like eating people, so he let his doppelganger do all this based on instinct. Lin Jun didn't look at the screams coming from the dark star. After about 10 minutes, when he turned his attention to the dark star again, Sun Hao had already been devoured to nothing. Of course, his spatial ring was still left. He put away Sun Hao's spatial ring. In any case, this person was also a nebula and a prince of a mid-level universe country. His spatial ring must be very valuable. The doppelganger sat cross-legged under the star fruit tree to cultivate, and the bloodline in his body was further awakened. Qi and blood rose around his body, and the doppelganger's original appearance couldn't be seen under the armor state. It was already half a Qilin. Lin Jun could feel the doppelganger's power after its evolution. Although his astral power hadn't caught up with his main bodies, it was almost 600. He withdrew his consciousness from the dark star and let his doppelganger slowly digest what he had obtained. Sun Hao, Nebula Level 2 Expert, I hope your wealth won't disappoint me. After opening the ring, Lin Jun was stunned. There wasn't much money inside, but all kinds of astral tools, sacred tools, and even divine tools were piled up like a mountain. Moreover, there's also a huge furnace. This guy was actually a star shift master. Lin Jun was also a star shift master, but after leaving Earth, danger lurked everywhere. He had been busy cultivating and no longer had time to perform star shift. He didn't expect Sun Hao to have such an ability. Lin Jun rummaged in the ring for a while and even found Sun Hao's star shift notes, which he wrote down his experience about star shift. At a glance, he knew that Sun Hao's star shift technique was still very poor. He was a preparatory star shift master. This huge spatial ring was full of materials which he had collected over the years. He was prepared to start cultivating when he had time, but he was killed by Lin Jun before that time came, taking all of Sun Hao's wealth for himself. The total value was also an astronomical figure. Since you don't have time to cultivate star shift, then leave it to me. I'm also very interested in this matter. After piling the things in the dark star space, Lin Jun didn't have time to do this for the time being. What he needed to do now was to absorb the thunder crystal or on this resource planet. Rising into the sky, Lin Jun began to use gravity on a large pile of garbage on the ground. Under the effect of gravity, a large amount of interstellar garbage was sucked into the dark star space and gradually exposed the ground. Lin Jun didn't do this before because he wasn't sure which planet was the resource planet. Of course, he couldn't bring a large amount of garbage into the dark star space. Now that he was sure, he had no scruples and quickly cleared out a large open space. Looking down from the sky, this was a basin surrounded by garbage mountains that were thousands of meters high. On the ground, a little mottled blue light couldn't be seen if one didn't look carefully. Lin Jun's feet landed on the ground. He squatted down and gently fiddled with the soil. A piece of, or with blue light, was directly pulled out by his hand. It really is a thunder crystal, or I've been to Chaos Star River for more than half a year, and I've finally found a real resource planet. There's hope for me to advance. Lin Jun couldn't wait to sit down. Just like absorbing the metal energy before, he prepared to absorb the thunder crystal. However, as soon as he started to act, Lin Jun found that things were a little different from what he imagined. As he started to cultivate, the surrounding blue light spots began to gather on Lin Jun's body. This was the power of the thunder crystal. As long as he absorbed enough light spots, Lin Jun could advance. However, in the light spots, there were too many other substances floating up and mixed in the light spots, making it particularly difficult for Lin Jun to absorb. No, Lin Jun quickly gave up on absorbing. He felt that the miscellaneous substances included other metal elements and even the aura of rotten objects, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. If he continued to cultivate like this, it was possible for him to go berserk. No, the metal here is an ore after all, not a refined thunder crystal. I can forcibly absorb it, but because of the miscellaneous substances, it will cause the foundation to be unstable and it will be more troublesome to deal with in the future. There are only two ways to absorb it. One is to absorb it slowly, but it's easy to waste it. Chris said that the power of these crystals can support me to the 8th level of the star. My goal is the peak of the 9th level, so I must not waste it. Then there's only one other way, which is to refine it. Lin Jun was also a star shift master, so he was actually very experienced in refining. It was to calcine the ore with a high-temperature fire, remove the impurities in the ore, and finally get what he wanted. However, that was the method of ordinary metals. Lin Jun hadn't tested the refining of this thunder crystal. No matter what, I have to try it. Anyway, there's no other way now. With this foundation and the huge furnace that Sun Hao brought, it can come in handy. He didn't expect to use it as soon as he got Sun Hao's property. Lin Jun simply took out Sun Hao's high-quality and good-looking huge furnace and placed it in the middle of the garbage basin. He sucked with one hand, and a lump of, or entered his hand and directly threw into the furnace. This furnace has automatically separated the upper and lower layers, and the innate conditions have been met. The first thing I have to do is to find the melting point of the crystal and the boundary between the melting points of other objects. Only then can I accurately refine the crystal. I hope my flame power can be used. I've been neglecting my elemental cultivation for these years. A ball of flame was emitted from Lin Jun's palm. He had the bloodline of the fire Qilin. Even if he was a black hole beast, he was also an expert in playing with fire. This method was handy for him. The orange flame wrapped around the ore and began to burn. Lin Jun waited silently. About 20 minutes later, no, the temperature is a bit low. Other materials have gradually begun to melt, but the elemental particles of the crystal have not been stripped out. But my flame power is only so strong. The flames from low to high were red, orange, yellow, white, cyan, and so on. Lin Jun's current flame level was only at the later stage of orange, and it couldn't completely smelt the thunder crystal ore. This discovery made Lin Jun extremely depressed. If he couldn't smelt the ore, wouldn't it be like sitting on a gold mountain and begging for food? He couldn't go back to the Fire Qilin Empire and find a mining group to develop this thunder crystal vein. That was simply unrealistic. Unfortunately, if I had the incandescent flame of Feng Qingwan, smelting these ores wouldn't be a problem at all. Do I have to ask Feng Qingwan for help? Say that she would help me for the sake of our fellow countrymen in the Sanjiang Federation? Thinking of this, Lin Jun couldn't help but smile. Feng Qingwan, that ice beauty, would definitely not do this kind of thing. Forget it. Chapter 506. Standing up from the trash basin, Lin Jun unconsciously walked around. Flames, stronger flames. This requires time to cultivate, but in this chaotic star river, I don't have that much time to waste. Lin Jun also checked the rankings in the dimensional universe. Currently, the number one in terms of kills was Yi Hua, who had killed more than 30,000 insectoids. The second was Nan Lai, who had also killed more than 30,000 insectoids. The third was Feng Qingwan, who had killed more than 20,000 insectoids. Her kill count had stagnated for a while. Otherwise, she would be tied with Yihua. Behind her, Tianxi and the others were also present, but the total number of Fire Qilin's warriors was less than 20,000. If this continued, this war would be lost. Once the army retreated, Lin Jun could not stay alone in the chaotic Star River. After thinking for a long time, Lin Jun still could not find a suitable solution. He felt a little impatient, so he simply sat down to rest and meditate. And Ning's mind gradually calmed down as he meditated. His mental power spread outwards, covering a radius of a few thousand meters. Chirp, chirp, a low and tender chirp of a bird rang out. After scanning with his mental power, he found a small bird. Lin Jun had never seen such a beautiful bird before. It had beautiful five-colored feathers on its body, a few feathers on its head, and a long, beautiful tail. Its wings flapped weakly, and its little claws were thin and tender, as if it would fall from the sky at any time. This seems to be a young bird, although it is much bigger than a chicken. Just as Lin Jun was thinking, the bird suddenly spun in the air and dove down. Lin Jun was shocked. This bird seemed to be heavily injured. He instinctively waved his hand, and a gravitational force enveloped the bird, pulling it over from the distance. The light bird entered his arms. His eyelids trembled a few times, and then slowly closed, unable to open them again. When Lin Jun hugged the bird, he suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. That's not an ordinary bird. It's a galactic beast, and it's a supergalactic beast with a fire attribute. Lin Jun's eyes widened in shock. He didn't expect to encounter a supergalactic beast in this barren land. This was really too shocking. Lin Jun did not know where this galactic beast had come from, but since he had encountered it, he did not want to leave it to die. Star power that contained fire energy slowly enveloped the bird. The unconscious bird let out a soft chirp like a kitten. Lin Jun smiled. Although the bird was heavily injured, he coincidentally had the Fire Qilin gene, which was also of the fire attribute. He should be able to slowly heal it. However, This required a process that could not be completed in a few days. Since I have nothing to do for the time being, I'll just treat it as a good thing. Lin Jun slowly channeled his astral power, but he could feel that the bird's body temperature was getting lower and lower. Not good. I don't know where this bird was injured. Its vitality is extremely weak. Star power alone will not be able to heal it. Lin Jun immediately thought of the situation when he saved Xiaonuan. He simply bit the tip of his finger, let the blood flow, and sent it to the bird's mouth. The unconscious bird felt the liquid and immediately began to swallow instinctively. Although the bird was only about 20 kilograms, it was still a galactic beast after all. Its appetite was amazing. It took a few hours to suck the blood. The amount of blood it absorbed exceeded its body weight. Lin Jun's body had been strengthened many times and had far surpassed the physical fitness of a human. That was why he was not sucked dry. Even so, when he finally pulled the bird back from the brink of death, Lin Jun's face was pale and he was on the verge of collapsing. What a big eater bird. It almost sucked me dry. Lin Jun hurriedly took out some food from his interspatial ring and wolfed it down. Then, he simply lay on the ground and began to rest. Lin Jun's blood entered the bird's body, and the bird's blood also entered Lin Jun's body, quietly changing. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Big brother, we can't run anymore. Let's fight these insects. A few fire Chilean martial artists were being chased by a group of insects. They were already at the end of their rope. Such a scene was very common in the chaotic Star River. The number of martial artists of a human race was decreasing, and the number of insects was increasing. They could not hold on any longer. Fight! Killing one is enough. Killing two is a win. A few martial artists turned around and charged towards the insect army. A galactic stage insect in the distance sneered. Stupid things. Our low-level martial artists can be bred from the mother nest. We can have as many as we want. Even if you kill 100 or 1,000 of them, what can you do to us? We will definitely win this chaotic Star River war. Just as the martial artists were about to be drowned by the insect army, a figure descended from the sky. Two flying swords were like dragons in the mind, drawing a stream of light in the sky. Wherever the sword light passed, countless insects were thrown off their feet. These several hundred insects were actually unable to resist this person's pair of treasured swords, and were slaughtered within 5 minutes. The galactic stage insect in the distance had already turned around and ran. As he ran, he shouted, "Yihua, don't be complacent. Your bravery alone doesn't mean anything. Our insect race will definitely win this battle. The rest of you will be buried in the chaotic Star River." The leader of the insect race ran away. A few martial artists looked at the handsome man whose clothes fluttered in the wind. Their eyes could no longer be described as worship. They could only be described as madness. "Yihua, so handsome. Boss Yihua, you are really my idol. Big brother Yihua, you saved my life. Little sister is unable to repay you. If Big Brother doesn't mind, little sister is willing to accompany Big Brother and take care of you." Yihua looked at these martial artists with a smile. He was already used to this kind of scene. "Everyone, there is no need to be like this. We are all compatriots of the Empire and should help each other. However, it is better for you not to wander around in the starry sky. Either go to Sky Island to comprehend the divine steel, or go back. It is too dangerous here. We're not afraid. We have Yihua. We won't go to Sky Island." The martial artists' attitudes were firm. Yihua revealed a charming smile that made the female martial artist's eyes shine. Then, he turned around and walked into the void, disappearing in the blink of an eye. All these scenes were recorded by these martial artists, and then transmitted to the dimensional universe for the Fire Chilean's people to see. The unfavorable situation of the war made the people of the Empire anxious. They urgently needed some peace of mind. Yihua's appearance was just right, and once again cheered them up. They all believed that they might not win this battle, but they would not lose too badly because they still had Yihua. The idol of the martial artists had become the idol of the entire nation. There were more than billions of people who flocked around him. Chirp, chirp. A few crisp chirps of birds woke Lin Jun up slowly. He opened his eyes and saw a small red bird standing on a broken spaceship in front of him. It tilted its head and looked at Lin Jun. Most of the bird's body was red, and it had colorful feathers. It was very beautiful and cute. Lin Jun used his mental power to look inside himself. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the fire elements in his body had become stronger. The originally light orange flames had turned light yellow. An increase in color meant an increase in temperature of tens of thousands of degrees. This increase was too big, especially when Lin Jun did nothing. It must be because of this little bird. Just like Xiao Wan, it should be a phoenix. There were many birds that could control fire, such as the vermilion bird, fire crow, and so on. However, only the phoenix, the king of birds, could control fire. Could it be that you're a little phoenix? Lin Jun looked at the little phoenix. The more he looked at it, the more he liked it. He could not help but wave at it. Come here. The little phoenix raised its head and looked at the distant sky as if it did not see Lin Jun. Aya, so proud? Lin Jun smiled and took out a piece of beef from his interspatial ring. Here, this is for you. The little phoenix did not even look at Lin Jun and stayed far away from him. Lin Jun did not know why, but he felt that the little phoenix's eyes were very cold. It did not feel close to him at all. You don't have to treat me like this. After all, I saved your life. The little phoenix turned its head slightly and looked at Lin Jun. However, that was the only response it gave. It did not seem happy at all. This little guy is really hard to please. Xiao Wan was like a mangy dog. I cannot get rid of it even if I wanted to. They are really two extremes. Lin Jun stroked his chin. The more arrogant the little phoenix was, the more he wanted it to take off its arrogant exterior. Thinking about a little phoenix landing on his shoulder, occasionally helping him with his hair and scratching his itch, it would also be good. Lin Jun could clearly feel that the little phoenix was very hungry and needed a lot of food. However, it did not care about him. Chris, help me find out what kind of food the phoenix needs to eat. Master, I found it. The phoenix's food must be living things that contain a lot of energy. Sometimes, it also needs to eat fire ores. There are no fire ores. Moreover, it is a young phoenix. It should not need to eat too many ores. Living things, let me see. Lin Jun's clone caught a dark green praying mantis from the starfruit tree. Its strength had reached the Xingzhou level. It was definitely a great tonic. Chris, see if this praying mantis fits the phoenix's menu. Yes, it definitely fits. That's good. I don't believe I can't handle it. Lin Jun firmly suppressed the praying mantis and took it out. Hey, come and try this. It's a fresh and delicious insect. It's natural and pure green. The little phoenix looked back. Lin Jun even saw its swallowing action. However, it still refused to come over. It was as if the scenery above was too beautiful. Lin Jun gritted his teeth. He simply made up his mind and directly activated the elemental power. Wind and clouds gathered. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Artificial rain fell from the sky. Chapter 507. No matter how much Lin Jun tried to seduce the little phoenix, it was useless. So, Lin Jun came up with this trick. He had the Dark Star World, and his elemental power was not bad either. The storm came. At first, the little phoenix resisted for a bit. But since Lin Jun decided to use this trick, he might as well go all the way. Suddenly, the rain poured down. The little phoenix's body had not recovered and could not withstand the storm. It flapped its wings and tried to find a place to hide. Lin Jun's star power erupted, and the wind element surged. The little phoenix tried to escape, but it could not. Ha ha ha! A phoenix on the ground is worse than a drenched chicken. Lin Jun laughed unscrupulously as he waved the unlucky mantis in his hand. Come, little baby, come into Big Brother's embrace. It's warm and comfortable here, and there's good food. At this time, Lin Jun saw a strange expression on the little phoenix's face. It was reasonable to say that a bird could not have any rich expressions. But Lin Jun could clearly feel its anger. Rather break than bend. Lin Jun thought of this phrase. He realized that if this continued, the little phoenix would rather die in the storm than come to his side. He hurriedly removed the storm. The little phoenix fell and lay weakly in the pool of water. Lin Jun ran over and picked up the little phoenix. Only then did he feel that the little phoenix's body was hot and extremely weak. Sigh, what a stubborn little guy. Lin Jun took out a big basin from his interspatial ring and filled it with water. Then, he threw a fire over and boiled the water. He added cold water and tested the temperature of the water. Come, I know you're a galactic beast and have a good physique, but you're still young and your injuries are not light. Now that you're in the rain, you might get sick. Quickly take a hot bath. It'll be good for your recovery. Putting the little phoenix in the basin, Lin Jun began to bathe the little bird. Little Phoenix's body moved, as if it wanted to struggle, but it had no strength at all. It weakly cried out a few times. When he was at home, Lin Jun gave his son a bath. As he bathed, his childishness was aroused. Come, little baby, wash your butt, wash it clean. The small phoenix's body was fragrant and soft, and it felt very good to touch. Lin Jun didn't have any psychological pressure to wash its little butt. When Lin Jun lifted the phoenix's tail feathers, the small phoenix suddenly struggled to twist, but its strength was already very weak, and it was easily subdued by Lin Jun. Be honest. You'll get sick if you don't take a good bath. You're just a bird. Do you think I'll have any improper thoughts about you? Hey, are you male or female? Lin Jun paused for a moment as he swiped his finger across the air. I wonder if that's the way to differentiate them. It feels like a female phoenix. No wonder you don't want to bathe you. You don't have to be dissatisfied. I'm a human, you're a phoenix. We're not the same race at all. You don't have to worry about gender. Little Phoenix had completely collapsed and was lying there motionless, as if there was nothing more sorrowful than a dead heart. After washing the small phoenix thoroughly, Lin Jun dried it and then carried the small phoenix over. Although I don't know how you got injured, you have to believe that I won't hurt you. I may have to stay here for a long time. Anyway, you can't go anywhere for the time being. Just stay here with me. I promise to take good care of you. Eat and drink until you fully recover. Then I'll set you free, okay? The small phoenix closed its eyes slightly, and the few phoenix feathers on the top of its head moved slightly. He didn't know what it meant. Forget it. You may not understand what I'm saying now, but you have to eat something. He put the mantis near the small phoenix's mouth. No matter how he talked, the phoenix still didn't move. Chris, is there something wrong with the things I made? It doesn't want to eat. Chris didn't understand. Master, normally, it needs to eat urgently. Although it doesn't look energetic, it doesn't have the intention to die. If it insists on not eating, then it should be that the food you gave it is not to its liking. Lin Jun thought for a while and took out a beetle from the starfruit tree. The small phoenix still didn't move. I don't believe it. Another green insect. It still didn't look at it, and even turned its head slightly. Obviously, it was disgusted with Lin Jun's food. Caterpillar, aphid bee, spider, dung beetle. When Lin Jun took out a dung beetle the size of a millstone, the small phoenix finally moved. He wasn't eating her. Instead, he was using all his strength to give Lin Jun a fierce peck. Lin Jun's body was strong, and ordinary weapons couldn't hurt him at all. Not to mention the small phoenix's weak bite, it didn't affect him at all. But Lin Jun noticed that the small phoenix's personality seemed to be a bit similar to that of a human. The more disgusting insects a human felt, the more disgusting it felt. Could it be that this phoenix has human habits? If that's the case, then it seems to be easy to handle. Lin Jun took out the beef again, cut it into thin slices, and then set up a rack, and used thin iron skewers to skewer it. With a snap of his fingers, the flame rose. Lin Jun still had ingredients in his space ring. He took out salt, chili, and various other seasonings, and began to roast it on the spot. After a while, the aroma of the roasted meat gradually spread. Lin Jun, who didn't eat regularly since he left home, swallowed his saliva. Wow, it's really fragrant. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I'll eat more today, Lin Jun said, but his spiritual power was focused on the phoenix nestled in his arms. The small phoenix closed its eyes, but there was a slight squirming in its slender neck. This squirming was so subtle that if Lin Jun's spiritual power was not strong enough, he really couldn't find it. This small discovery made Lin Jun a little surprised. He really guessed it right. The small phoenix didn't eat raw food. Its habits were the same as humans, and it liked to eat human food. Come on, fresh roasted beef skewers. After eating, my little baby will be full of energy. The small phoenix closed its eyes. Although it refused to move, the squirming of its throat had deeply betrayed it. After coaxing for a while without any effect, Lin Jun suddenly showed an evil smile. You'd better be obedient, or I'll give you a thorough bath this time. By the way, I just touched a certain place of yours. It feels good. In the face of a small female phoenix of a different race, Lin Jun couldn't scrupulously tease it, and there was no psychological pressure. Moreover, Lin Jun felt that since the small phoenix ate human food, it might be able to understand human language. He could take this opportunity to try it. Sure enough, the small phoenix's body shook a bit, and the so-called calmness was broken again. It couldn't help but peck Lin Jun again. Ah, you can really understand what I said. Okay, eat it. I roasted it so hard. Eat a bite, and I won't give you a bath. The small phoenix finally couldn't resist. Maybe it was too evil, or maybe it was really afraid of being bathed by Lin Jun, so it swallowed a mouthful of beef. Lin Jun's cooking was really good. After the small phoenix took a bite, it couldn't control itself. Anyway, eating a bite was eating a meal was eating, so it simply let go. It quickly ate the beef skewers that Lin Jun handed over. Seeing that it had finished eating, Lin Jun once again took a few skewers. This time, the feeding was very successful. The small phoenix ate very quickly, and its appetite was very big. It was completely inconsistent with its petite body. Lin Jun roasted more than 20 pounds of beef. He ate 2 mouthfuls, and the rest was unknowingly swallowed by the small phoenix. After finishing the beef, it raised its head to look at Lin Jun, as if it was still hungry. Okay, since you're not full, I'll roast it again. Lin Jun once again took out a piece of beef and slowly roasted it there. This time, Lin Jun roasted it very carefully. He turned it over and over again, and the strength of the flame was very small. It took a long time to roast it. The small phoenix seemed to be a little impatient. It gently opened its small mouth and spat out a little flame. The golden flame was spat out, and the beef instantly turned into ashes. Look at you, what are you doing? This time there's nothing to eat. The small phoenix bowed its head slightly and seemed to be a little embarrassed. The corner of Lin Jun's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. This little phoenix's firepower was very strong. Although it wasn't as strong as Feng Qingluan's incandescent flame, it was still young after all. If he could master this flame power, refining the thunder crystal wouldn't be a problem. However, it was still impossible to let the small phoenix smoothly release the flame to help him cultivate. He still had to use his brain. Once again, he roasted a large piece of beef for the small phoenix. This time, the small phoenix was finally full. It felt that it had recovered a little, but it still didn't have the strength to fly. Lin Jun just held the small phoenix and said, "Little baby, I'm going to start cultivating the power of flame. This flame will help you recover. You stay here obediently and watch me cultivate." Sitting in the garbage basin, Lin Jun began to meditate and cultivate. This time, he completely cultivated the power of flame. Flames rose up from his body, and the temperature was extremely high. Chirp! The small phoenix made 2 crisp chirps. Those flames couldn't cause any harm to it. Instead, it was like a big nutrient solution, making it extremely comfortable. It was rare for it to twist in Lin Jun's arms and find a relatively comfortable position. Maybe it was too sleepy. The small phoenix gradually fell asleep. Sleep. As long as you get used to it, I will have a way to make you work for me sooner or later. Lin Jun gently stroked the small phoenix's feathers, and he could clearly feel a sense of blood connection. The small phoenix had his blood in its body, and he also had the small phoenix's blood. Just like Xiao Wan, they could never be separated. Therefore, although the small phoenix was arrogant and indifferent, it was impossible for it to really reject his approach in its heart. Chapter 508. Since Lin Jun successfully fed Little Phoenix, the relationship between one man and one bird became better. Perhaps Lin Jun's flame treatment was really effective on Little Phoenix, so it no longer rejected Lin Jun's arms to heal. The second time, Lin Jun successfully fed and then healed Little Phoenix. Little Phoenix finally reacted. The phoenix was of the fire attribute, and so was the Qilin. The power of fire was beneficial to both of them. However, the little phoenix seemed to feel that Lin Zhan's power of fire was relatively weak. The second time Lin Zhan cultivated and healed, the little phoenix moved. Little phoenix raised its small head and looked at Lin Zhan. Its eyes were full of contempt, and then a bright golden flame appeared. Lin Zhan had been cultivating for so long, but the power of his flame was only light yellow. It was achieved by relying on a trace of little phoenix's bloodline power. This little guy was so small, but the power of his flame had far surpassed Lin Zhan. And Lin Zhan felt that this was not little phoenix's strongest firepower because it was now in an injured state. When the flame appeared, a scorching heat attacked. Lin Zhan instinctively dodged, but the flame did not hurt Lin Zhan. Not only did it not hurt, but it also quickly merged with Lin Zhan's flame. One man and one bird were shrouded in flames. Little Phoenix stared at Lin Zhan with its eyes wide open. It originally wanted to use its flame to humiliate Lin Zhan, but it did not expect that the flame would quickly merge. After it rotated in Lin Zhan's body, Lin Zhan's firepower also increased crazily. Even Lin Zhan did not expect such an effect. The power of the black hole beast was reflected at this moment. Little Phoenix's flame power was of the same origin as his, but it was easily swallowed by the black hole beast. The flame power poured in crazily, and the flame in Lin Zhan's body rose straight up. Light yellow, medium yellow, dark yellow. The flame lasted for 20 minutes and reached dark yellow. Although it had not reached the bright yellow and golden yellow levels, and was still a distance away from Little Phoenix's flame power, the fusion of flames could achieve such an effect. It was almost enough to refine ores. He believed that after a few more fusions, it would be like Little Phoenix, emitting a bright golden flame. Ha ha ha. It's done. It's really effective. The black hole beast talent gene is really powerful. It can easily fuse with the flame power of a supergalactic beast. Lin Zhan felt a burst of happiness in her heart. She lowered her head and looked at the little phoenix in her arms who was looking up at her. She couldn't help but hug it to her chest and fiercely kissed that beautiful little mouth. The small phoenix was suddenly kissed by Lin Zhan. At first, it was stunned for about 3 seconds, as if it couldn't believe that Lin Zhan dared to kiss it, and then it suddenly twisted violently. For Lin Zhan, this kiss did not mean anything. The other party was not a human. It was just a kiss to express happiness. Fortunately, Little Phoenix's body had not yet fully recovered and did not have much strength to resist. Lin Zhan smiled and patted Little Phoenix's body, gently hugging it. Little darling, you really are my lucky star. Now there's hope for everything. Little Phoenix's body moved up and down, burying its head in Lin Zhan's arms. It seemed to be angry, but it could not do anything to Lin Zhan. Lin Zhan hugged Little Phoenix and slept for a night. The next day, it seemed to have recovered some of its strength. No matter what, it refused to stay in Lin Zhan's arms. It waddled out and strolled by the side. Occasionally, it flapped its wings a few times and was able to fly to a not-too-high altitude. Lin Zhan, on the other hand, began his grand plan to refine the Thunder Crystal. Good morning, baby. Stay by the side. When I am done, I will make something for you to eat. Little Phoenix glared at Lin Zhan and ran to a relatively high place to watch Lin Zhan's actions. Lin Zhan did not avoid it. He took out a large piece of thunder crystal, or from the ground, and threw it into the furnace. With a thought, a dark yellow flame surged out and began to burn. Melting point is almost reached. After about 5 minutes of calcination, Lin Zhan finally succeeded and reached the melting point of the thunder crystal, or all kinds of materials began to decompose. The melted thunder crystal gathered together like a stream of water. The impurities in it were burned out. Chapter 509. Lin Zhan was pleasantly surprised when he saw the flames on Little Phoenix's body becoming brighter. This little phoenix still had potential to be unearthed. The intensity of the flames had actually increased again. The black hole beast devouring ability was activated and the flames began to merge again. Lin Zhan and Little Phoenix's flames resonated again. The previous dark yellow flames became bright yellow in less than 10 minutes and reached golden yellow in an hour. Although it had not reached the intensity of Little Phoenix's flames, the current flames were much stronger than before. After this round of cultivation, Linjun could not help but hug Little Phoenix and kiss her fiercely. Little Phoenix wobbled and dodged. Although she was still unwilling, her reaction was not as intense as before. "I'm rich. I can finally smelt on a large scale this time." Linjun set up the furnace again. This time, the flames were much stronger and could continuously throw in ores. After a full 12 hours, a day of smelting, the lightning crystals in front of Linjun had piled up to the height of a person. "Chris, help me measure the weight. Is it enough for me to level up?" "Master, you are currently at level 4 star stage. You need 8 tons of lightning crystals to level up. These are almost half of it." "All right, I'll persevere for one more day." Another day passed, and Linjun had dug a big hole in the basin. Linjun's lightning crystals had finally accumulated to 8 tons. Sitting on top of this pile of lightning crystals, Linjun began a new round of devouring. Above his head, a strange beast that looked like a Chelan but was much more ferocious than a Chelan appeared. Its whole body was burning with black flames, and a huge black hole began to form. Roar! The black hole rotated, and the energy in the lightning crystals began to crazily pour into the black hole. Linjun's aura and strength began to climb all the way from level 4 star stage to level 4. The constantly expanding star power made Little Phoenix hide far away. She stared at Linjun with a trace of shock in her eyes and more complicated emotions. No one knew what she was thinking. An hour later, the last trace of energy from this pile of lightning entered Linjun's body. Whoosh! A wave of air spread out from Linjun's body and actually pushed the garbage basin to another size. Level 5 star stage. Linjun opened his eyes and moved his limbs. "Chris, calculate my current star power." "Master, your current star power is 753 points. It's very rare for your star power to increase by so much." "I know. If that's the case, my star power will reach the peak of level 9 star stage." "In theory, yes," Wang Chung said. Linjun nodded. If he had 1,000 units of astral power, he would be equivalent to a level 3 nebula expert. It was unimaginable that a stellar stage expert who had not even reached the black hole stage could have so much astral power. The characteristic of the black hole beast was that after devouring and advancing, it would take another month for it to devour again. Therefore, Linjun had a month of free time to cultivate and stabilize his level. Of course, Linjun was not idle either. When he had time, he would go to the simulation field to fight. Now, Linjun's opponents were all level 2 star stage. Because his star power had surpassed that, level 1 star stage opponents were no longer a challenge to Linjun. In addition to cultivation, Linjun had one more thing to do. That was to let Little Phoenix not fly too far away, so that she could land on his shoulder when she was free. This task seemed to have a long way to go. Little Phoenix was always very shy and refused to get too close to Linjun. She would only give him a little face and land on Linjun's shoulder for a while. For example, Linjun made a promise. "Little baby, come here and stay with me for 10 minutes. I will find you a sycamore tree." He saw that Little Phoenix seemed to like to stay in high places. Phoenixes lived in sycamore trees, and there were no sycamore trees here. If he could get one, Little Phoenix would be very happy. Usually, Little Phoenix would come over at this time. Although it worked the first and second time, she would not give him face the third time because Linjun did not fulfill his promise. At this time, Linjun had to use his brain to think of other ways. Time passed day by day, and the small phoenix gradually recovered. It was now able to fly freely, and Linjun was about to welcome the second absorption. On a larger planet, there was a huge monster. This monster was like a skyscraper. Its body was like a beehive, and its surface was full of holes. Disgusting pus was oozing out from the inside. Little spiders were crawling out from every hole. The monster was surrounded by a dark red fungus blanket that connected the sky to the earth. It looked as if it was soaked in blood. The little spiders absorbed nutrient from the fungus blanket and grew up, gradually turning into spider warriors. The The spider warriors went back and forth between the monster and the fungus blanket. Their strength was constantly increasing. The newly born spiders had the strength of the star realm, and their realms kept increasing. Occasionally, a huge spider would appear among the monsters. Its strength had reached the eternal realm. Such spider warriors could go out and fight. This was the mother nest of the insectoids, the spider lair. A disgusting hole opened at the top of the mother nest, and the spider commander came out from it. "You still haven't found Feng Qingwan?" "Commander, we haven't found her yet." The person who contacted us on the Fire Qilin side said that because Feng Qingwan's aura is weak, the dimensional universe is temporarily closed. We can't find her exact location. She's probably healing somewhere. Oof. She's lucky. But according to her injuries, she won't be able to recover without 2 or 3 years. This time, the floating island is about to open. She won't have time to participate. Yes, one less competitor. Commander, you'll definitely be able to gain something on the floating island. I hope so. I'm going to go now. I'll try to get a good spot on the floating island as soon as possible to study the ancient monument. You guys stay in a mother nest and guard it. When I come back from the floating island, the insectoids will launch an all-out attack. We will defeat the Fire Qilin. Yes. The spider warriors bowed and answered. The floating island was the core of the entire chaotic Star River. There was an ancient monument on it, and it recorded many important skills. As long as you could find a large number of cold stones, you could absorb the aura and study the monument. Anyone who felt that they had the strength to compete at the monument would go to the floating island. The floating island only opened once every 100 years, and it would stay open for a year. The war between the two countries was also a very important factor in the competition for the floating island. Legend had it that the floating island was a forbidden place for the ancient gods. Not only was there a monument, but there was also a divine aura. Fighting was forbidden on the floating island. If anyone dared to fight on the floating island, the ancient divine aura would turn them into ashes. That was why both the insectoids and humans would go to the floating island at all costs. Perhaps they had the talent to study the monument. The spider commander was not the only one going to the floating island. The other commanders of the insectoids and the nebula stage elites were going as well. Even the elites from the Fire Qilin Empire stopped fighting with the insectoids and stopped looking for resource planets. There was only 1 month until the floating island opened. If they were late, they would be at a disadvantage compared to others. On the kill list, Yi Hua, who was in first place, was far ahead. His kill count had reached 70,000. Nan Lai, who was in second place, had 50,000 kills. It seemed that he had no hope of catching up to Yi Hua. Tianxi from the Sanjiang Federation was in 5th place with 30,000 kills. As for Feng Qingwan, her kill count had stopped at around 30,000. She was in 6th place, and it seemed that she would continue to fall. As for Lin Jun, who had once been first on the list, he had now fallen to last place. Nothing happened for half a year. Lin Jun, who was once in first place, had become a laughingstock. This also seemed to prove one thing. A person's luck was nothing. In a place like the chaotic Star River, strength was what mattered. If you were not strong enough, you would not be able to go far. The opening of the floating island was a relief to everyone. There would be no war at the floating island, and the warriors of the Fire Qilin Empire would no longer be surrounded and killed by the insectoids. People were looking forward to Yi Hua, the genius, to turn the tide and reach the top of the floating island and then defeat the insectoids. I'm in last place. There are 20,000 people in the chaotic Star River, and I'm in last place. This is so embarrassing. Lin Jun looked at the rankings in the dimensional universe, sighed, and lay on the ground. Above the sky, the small phoenix hovered in a circle at a low altitude. It had been a day since they last saw it. No one knew where it flew to and came back. 3 months had passed, and the small phoenix had grown a lot. When it stretched its wings, it had a wingspan of more than 2 meters. It looked like a beautiful big bird. Under Lin Jun's feet, a big hole had been dug out on the resource planet. If one looked at it from other planets, this planet had become a thick crescent moon, just like the moon on the 11th or 12th of every month. Lin Jun no longer needed to clean up the garbage and collect the ores. Instead, a group of robots were doing the work. These robots were from Lin Jun's Dark Star space. He had bought them and left them there after using them. Lin Jun had almost forgotten about them. Because Lin Jun had promised to find a parasol tree for the little phoenix, he went to the Dark Star space to see if there were any parasol tree seeds. In the end, he didn't find any seeds, but he found these robots instead. While the robots were busy, Lin Jun played with the little phoenix every day, went to the simulation field, and then cultivated. In 3 months, Lin Jun had reached the early stage of level 7 star. This realm allowed Lin Jun's star power to reach 850, which had surpassed Sun House. When he saw that the floating island was about to open in the dimensional universe, he was a little anxious. Should he advance first or go to the floating island immediately? This was still a problem. At this time, the little phoenix landed and took the initiative to come to Lin Jun's side. It held a small crystal clear stone in its mouth and put it at Lin Jun's feet. Chapter 510. Lin Jun's eyes widened when he saw the cold stone that little phoenix had brought back. "Where did you find it, little darling?" "Chirp, chirp." Little phoenix chirped twice before flapping its wings and rising into the sky. Lin Jun also immediately rose into the air and followed behind little phoenix. After rising into the air, he realized that little phoenix's flying speed had unknowingly become extremely fast. It was extraordinarily fast, even for Lin Jun. If it weren't for the lightning wings, he wouldn't have been able to keep up with little phoenix's speed. As expected of a flying galactic beast, its speed was unparalleled. Little phoenix turned into a fiery red stream of light and headed straight for another small planet in the distance. Lin Jun followed behind and arrived at this resource planet. This was also a trash planet. Little phoenix landed and stood at a high place. It used its little claws to stomp its feet, indicating that Lin Jun was below. Lin Jun immediately took out 500 robots and started digging. He set all the robots' targets as cold stones. After a while, good news kept coming. "Master, we've collected 35 cold stones." "Master, we've collected 150 cold stones, 500 cold stones, 1,700 cold stones, 3,900 cold stones." Lin Jun was grinning from ear to ear. He didn't know that there was such a valuable planet with countless cold stones here. Lin Jun didn't know how many cold stones were needed for the floating island, but he was confident that he could collect enough. "Little darling, you've done a great job this time. Tell me, what reward do you want? I promise I'll get it for you." Little Phoenix shook its head and drew a few lines on the ground with its claws. Lin Jun looked down and saw that Little Phoenix's drawing skills were quite good. It had drawn the shape of a tree. Lin Jun immediately understood that it wanted a parasol tree. "I understand. I'll get you a parasol tree. Don't worry." Little Phoenix glanced at Lin Jun before flapping its wings and flying to the side. Clearly, it didn't believe that Lin Jun could do it. "Chris, check if there are any parasol trees for sale in the dimensional universe. If they do, have them deliver it to the Chaotic Star River." Chris immediately began to search. After a while, she replied, "Master, I found one. You can contact them." Lin Jun immediately picked up the call. The service staff on the other side had a very good attitude. "Hello, sir. What do you need?" "I want to buy a parasol tree." "How much is it?" 500 Chilean coins for one." Lin Jun nodded. 500 high-level universe country currency for a tree wasn't considered expensive. "All right, I want one. Send it to the Chaotic Star River." "The coordinates are..." "Sir, please wait a moment. Do you want to send it to the Chaotic Star River?" "Really? Is there a problem? Can't you deliver to anywhere?" "We can, but the parasol tree is a living being in the end, and the Chaotic Star Rivers are far too far away. Normally, living beings will die. We can only have a World King Master personally deliver it, because they have their own independent worlds that can store living beings." Lin Jun said, "If a World King wants to deliver it, then I'll just have to pay a bit more. As long as you name a price, I won't bargain. But the problem is that a World King Master cannot use the light corridor to deliver the goods, nor can they use a lightspeed fly ship. It will take at least 3 years for the goods to arrive." "Are you sure you can wait that long?" Lin Jun was speechless. He had forgotten that those above the Domain King level couldn't enter the Light Corridor and could only have a World King Master take a detour. He estimated that in these 3 years, only a World King would be able to pass through the endless asteroid belt of the chaotic Star River. If it were anyone else, they might not be able to pass through even 8 to 10 years. It didn't matter if the price was high, but the problem was that it would take too long. 3 years later, the chaotic Star River War would probably be over. Who? Lin Jun let out a long breath. He couldn't bear to disappoint the little phoenix. He held on to some hope and asked, "Then, I won't be able to obtain a parasol tree here. It's not completely impossible. If you can find another World King in the chaotic Star River, they can use world transmission between World Kings to send you a parasol tree." World transmission? Lin Jun was stunned. He knew that world transmission was a legend. Only those with a world within their body could use it. Generally speaking, only World Kings were able to do so. After a martial artist's inner world stabilized, their main body could use their formidable strength to enter their inner world and use it to be transmitted to another World King's inner world. Lin Jun had only heard of this before. He immediately asked crazy about world transmission. "Master, if you wish to use world transmission, besides having a world within your body, you also need to have a star force of over 1,000. Only then can your main body smoothly enter your inner world. This isn't a problem for a World King, but for you, I'm afraid it will be a bit difficult." Lin Jun's current star force was 850. If he wanted to open his inner world, his star force would need to increase by 150 to reach the value of 1,000. A star level 9 should be close to 1,000. If he wanted to exceed 1,000, it would be a bit difficult. However, Lin Jun had the Dark Star, so it wasn't impossible. He then asked the staff member, "If I find an inner world, but I need our people to go and retrieve it, you're not allowed to come over. How much would it cost?" "You can come and retrieve it. Because we need to mobilize a World King expert, the price is higher. It would cost 10 billion cosmos crystals." "All right, I understand. I think we will contact you again soon." Lin Jun closed the dimensional universe system. Crazy said, "Master, 10 billion cosmos crystals to buy a parasol tree is simply a great waste." Needless to say, I know what to do. In the next half a month, Lin Jun commanded the robots to dig with all their might. They dug out all the thunder crystal ores on the planet and stored all the ores in the dark star space. This trash planet was completely abandoned. After Lin Jun mined the last ores, it fell apart. The garbage drifted away and was gradually attracted to other planets. He had also collected enough cold stones. With 2 million cold stones, he had cleaned up the trash planet. For these 2 mining jobs, Lin Jun had consumed countless energy blocks. More than half of the robots were also damaged, but he had finally rushed out. In half a month, Lin Jun had collected enough thunder crystals to advance to a star level 9. The reason he was in such a hurry was that he wanted to go to the floating island. There was still more than 10 days before the floating island opened. Even if Lin Jun set off now, he would definitely not be able to catch up with the first wave. However, as long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wouldn't give up. "Little Phoenix, I am going to the floating island. Do you want to come with me?" Under Lin Jun's careful care, the little phoenix had recovered very well. Its feathers were shining, its eyes were bright, and its flying speed was even faster than Lin Jun's. It was already capable of entering the universe on its own. Lin Jun wasn't sure if the little phoenix would still be willing to go with him. The little phoenix flapped its wings and took the initiative to land on Lin Jun's shoulder. Its eyes looked ahead, clearly ready to set off. "Hey, I knew our little baby wouldn't want to leave me. Come, let's go to the floating island together." Lin Jun boarded the spaceship and set off for the floating island with the little phoenix. The thunder crystals and cold stones were ready, so they wouldn't affect his advancement. After boarding the spaceship, Lin Jun looked back at the trash planet where the cold stones were found. All the trash on it had been cleared, leaving only a small planet behind. "Little Phoenix, if there's a day where I can't find you, I'll plant this wudong tree on this small planet. Remember to come back and take a look. That's a tree that costs 10 billion cosmos crystals." The little phoenix tilted its head and looked at Lin Jun on his shoulder, then turned away. Its attitude was clear. It thought Lin Jun was bragging. The floating island was located at the core of the entire chaotic star river. It was surrounded by a dense asteroid belt that rotated at high speed around the floating island. Dense cosmic storms ran rampant, so it was impossible to force your way through. Every 100 years, when the asteroid belt moved to a distant orbit, the density of the asteroid belt would weaken. It was only then that people could pass through the gaps between the asteroids and enter the floating island. However, it would only take a year for the meteorite belt to travel to the distant end. After a year, the meteorite belt would return to its dense state. At that time, the people inside would not be able to leave, and the people outside would not be able to enter. If they wanted to enter or exit, they would have to wait for 100 years. Now that the asteroid belt moved to a distant orbit once every 100 years, the bug race and the Fire Cheelin warriors temporarily stopped fighting and headed to the floating island. Besides the warriors from the Fire Cheelin and the Demon Bug Empire, 2 other empires at the border of the chaotic Star River also sent masters to the floating island. They didn't fight with the Fire Cheelin and the Demon Bug Empire. Their goal here was purely to comprehend the ancient monument. With the masters of 4 advanced civilizations gathered, the competition would be fierce. An island-like asteroid with a diameter of 1,000 kilometers floated in space. Unlike the other lifeless asteroids, this one was obviously left behind by predecessors. 4 huge iron chains that were dozens of meters thick connected the sky and the earth to the top of the floating island. These iron chains were extremely tough and couldn't be broken by external forces. In the center of the floating island, 3 incomparably huge stone monuments stood there as if they had been there since the beginning of time. On the ground, there were stone pillars from the lowest to the highest. They surrounded the 3 sky steels like stars surrounding the moon. These were the seats for those who were comprehending the sky steels. The stronger one was, the higher the stone pillars, the closer they were to the monument, and the more they could comprehend. The stone monuments pierced the sky. Above the vault of heaven, a layer of dense black clouds covered the sky. Within the black clouds, golden lightning hid in the sky, ready to strike. Chapter 511. The meteorite belt protecting levitating island gradually slowed down. As the meteorite belt slowed down, the energy storm also gradually weakened. Finally, it was time to open the island, which happened once every 100 years. Outside Levitating Island, there were already people waiting for them. As soon as the meteorite belt slowed down, people began to pass through the meteorite tunnel. Whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another entered the meteorite belt like lightning, passing through the energy storm. There were risks in doing so. If they waited for another day, they would be completely safe. However, everyone wanted to seize the opportunity. If one person took the lead and rushed out, the people behind would have no choice but to follow. This was also the time to test the strength of a martial artist. A black hole expert from the Rakshasa Empire from the west was the first to be swept away by the energy storm. The so-called energy storm was the combination of various elements. The golden energy was like a knife, the fire burned, the lightning flashed, and the wind raged. Once hit, even a world king would find it difficult to survive, let alone a black hole expert. Being swept into the energy storm, he only had time to scream. This was the last proof of his existence in this world. After he fell, people from all directions died one after another. This circle of meteorite belts was like a great wave washing away sand, eliminating many unqualified martial artists one after another. Black hole experts were barely able to come here. However, there were always some people in this world who took the risk and tried their luck, causing most black hole experts to die in the meteorite belt. The first wave to pass through the meteorite belt was basically a nebula-level expert. Inside Sky Island, figures flashed in all 4 directions at the same time, passing through the meteorite belt almost at the same time. In the north, a black-armored warrior from the Rakshasa Empire was the first to pass through. This person was called Kinaro, a nebula level 7. In the south, a mountain-like giant from the Atlantis Empire rushed over. This person was called Lanka, a nebula level 6. In the west, a bug race martialist clad in bug armor appeared. This person was clad in dark green battle armor, revealing only half of his face. His pair of brown eyes sent chills down one spine, and he wielded 2 gigantic battle swords in his hands. This was the Mantis Commander, a level 7 nebula. The person who appeared in the east was the national idol of the Fire-Chelan Empire. He was both beautiful and strong, the embodiment of heroes and chivalrous heroes. Yihua, a nebula level 6. The 4 of them were the first group, and the order of their arrival was almost the same. After entering Levitating Island, everyone was shocked by the huge steel. Under the rolling dark clouds in the sky, the huge heavenly steel soared into the clouds. The 3 steels were placed in a triangular formation, emitting a faint pressure. Looking from afar, there seemed to be some blurry handwriting on it, but it couldn't be seen clearly. Whoosh whoosh. More warriors entered Floating Island from all directions. Seeing that there were more people coming in from behind, Yihua and the others immediately ran forward, preparing to quickly approach the Heaven Steel. On the Fire-Chelan side, the people behind saw that Yihua was running ahead and immediately became somewhat anxious. They bluntly rose into the air, wanting to rely on star energy to fly. Hiss! Hiss! A ball of golden lightning was brewing at the top of the sky. Then it released a bolt of lightning that resembled a golden dragon. Crack! A thunderbolt fell from the clear sky. This level 3 nebula-grade expert didn't even have the chance to resist before he was turned into charcoal. There were also thunderbolts falling from the south, west, and north. There were martial artists who were punished for flying too fast. Everyone, be careful. This is a sacred place left behind by the ancient gods. No one is allowed to offend it. We just have to walk over with our feet on the ground. There's no need to rush. Yihua, who was running in front, saw that someone was punished for following his footsteps. He immediately turned around and stopped, patiently waiting for his companions behind him. A few nebula-grade martial artists from the Fire-Chelan Empire were somewhat ashamed. Looking at Yihua's jade-like face, they thought that he was indeed an extraordinary man, a dragon among men. He was strong but kind. Young Master Yihua, you don't have to worry about us. At this time, we have to compete. Don't lose to the warriors from the other countries. Yes, you go first. Our empire is still counting on you. That's right. You don't have to walk with us. Yihua smiled gently. Since everyone says so, Yihua won't be pretentious. I'll go first. With a flick of his white robe, Yihua quickened his pace towards the center of Levitating Island. Although they could see the divine steel from here, they were still a few hundred kilometers away. They couldn't fly or teleport here, so it was better to walk step by step. Seeing Yihua leave, the others quickened their pace and followed closely behind. However, no one thought of surpassing the perfect Yihua. Even if someone had such thoughts, it wouldn't be good to show it at this time. After all, Yihua's performance just now was very popular. Only Yihua's biggest competitor, Nan Lai, had an indignant look on his face as he secretly muttered in his heart, "You pretty boy who only knows how to put on an act. I just want to see if you can still maintain that annoying face of yours if you don't get the best results." There were 4 groups of people and 3 divine steels. If one wanted to choose which one to comprehend, they first had to figure out which one to comprehend. In front of each divine steel, there was a row of stone pillars from low to high. To comprehend the divine steel, one had to first climb the lowest stone pillar. Only by completely comprehending the contents here would the second row of higher stone pillars open up, allowing one to get closer to the divine steel. There were a total of 10 rows of stone pillars. The last row only had 1 stone pillar, and only one person could reach the highest point. Only by reaching the highest point would one be able to fully comprehend the words on the divine steel. Therefore, when the people in front of them arrived, they didn't immediately climb the stone pillars. Instead, they slowly walked around the 3 divine steels, trying to figure out the contents of the divine steels. Yihua stood in front of a divine steel and carefully observed it. This divine steel only had one word: boundary. The boundary divine steel recorded the power of space law. Comprehending this divine steel would allow one to grasp the power of space and freely travel through space. Moreover, there were many space battle techniques written on it. Yihua's heart stirred. The power of space was an extremely profound power system. Wanting to grasp the power of space was definitely not easy. However, he didn't immediately make a choice. Instead, he walked around the divine steel and arrived in front of the second divine steel. The second divine steel was called silence. The silence divine steel contained the power of time law. Comprehending it would allow a martial artist to grasp the power of time law. If one could reach the top, then one could even grasp the method of time stop. This second divine steel was even more difficult than the first divine steel. If one could really grasp time stop, then it would undoubtedly be of great help in battle. Imagine if you had a lot of skills, but if your opponent gave you time stop, then you wouldn't be able to display all your skills and could only be trampled on. Even if it was time stop for a second, or even 1 second, it would still be fatal. The third divine steel was called illusion. This divine steel was even more extraordinary. It was a spiritual steel. If one wanted to comprehend it, then one would have to break through the spiritual illusion on each of the stone pillars. If one's talent was high enough, then one could even break through the existing spiritual barrier, allowing one's spiritual strength to advance to the next level. This divine steel was also extremely extraordinary. Especially for a spirit reader master, a stronger spiritual strength represented a higher combat strength. A high-level spirit reader master didn't even need to make any moves when facing an enemy. A single spiritual shock was enough to kill the enemy. It was also extremely difficult to advance one's spiritual strength, especially at the nebulous stage. Almost everyone was a spirit reader master, and almost all of them had azure spiritual strength. Whoever could advance to the next level would be the true king of kings. These three divine steels were difficult for these martial artists. The power of space, the power of time, and spiritual strength. Each one was so tempting and difficult to choose. When people browsed the divine steels, they automatically received some information in their minds. The floating island had existed for countless years. Each of the three divine steels had a stone pillar to reach the top. Over the years, no more than 100 people had been able to successfully reach the top of the stone pillars. Among them, a total of 32 people had reached the top of the space steel. On the time steel, a total of 17 people had reached the top. As for the spiritual steel, a total of 30 people had reached the top. The total number of people was only 79. Although 79 people seemed to be a lot, one shouldn't forget how long this place had existed. It was said that the divine steel had stood there for tens of billions of years and opened once every 100 years. How many martial artists had come over all these years? The success rate was probably less than 1 in 100 million. There is also another important thing about reaching the top of the divine steel. The higher the stone pillar, the more one could comprehend. There were a total of 10 rows of stone pillars. The first row could only comprehend 1%, the second 3%, the third 5%, the fourth 15%, and the fifth 20%. The sixth row could comprehend 25%, the seventh 30%, the eighth 40%, and the ninth 50%. Only by reaching the last position of each divine steel could one comprehend 100% of the divine steel's contents. This didn't mean that the people in the ninth row could comprehend half as much as the people in the 10th row. The most profound and quintessential parts were in the last 50%. Even if one reached the top of the 9th row of stone pillars, what they had learned would only be superficial. Moreover, the number of stone pillars decreased progressively. There were only 2 pillars in the 9th row. On each divine steel's 10th row, there was only one position, and only one person could reach the top. Another thing was time. Levitating Island would only be open for a year. After a year, the elemental storm would reappear and cover the entire island. No one would be able to survive here. Therefore, you had to complete your comprehension within a year and leave. If one didn't leave within a year, they would never be able to leave. Chapter 5:12. These three steals were indeed very difficult choices. In terms of profoundness, the first steal should be the still word steal that contained the law of time. Then the boundary word steal with the law of space. And finally, the illusion word steal with the law of mind. But in terms of practicality, the majority of people were willing to try to comprehend the illusion word steal. After all, the uses of mind were too broad. But in reality, very few people reached the top of the mind steal, proving that it was not easy to comprehend any of the steals. As time passed, more and more martial artists gathered. Among them, there were the least martial artists from the Fire Chilan Empire and the most from the insect race. There were dozens of martial artists from both the Rakshasa Empire and Atlantis Empire. Those who could make it here were all top prodigies. Atlantis Empire's Lanka chose the illusion word steal, and Rakshasa Empire's Kinara chose the boundary word steal. Among the bug race's commanders, except for the Mantis race's commander who chose the still word steal, the other 6 commanders chose the other 2 steals. And the Fire Chilan's pride, Yihua, chose the boundary word steal. The best is not necessarily the best. I hope my cold stone can be used. Yihua jumped up and landed on one of the stone pillars in the first row of the illusion word steal. Many Fire Chilan martial artists followed Yihua up the steal. After getting on the steal, the first thing they saw was the faint brilliance of the steal. Looking at it from the top of the stone pillar was completely different from looking at it from below. Words appeared on the stone tablet, and each word seemed to be distorted. They were hazy, distant, and unreal. It was as if they were in another dimension, and people couldn't help but try to comprehend and follow them. This was the special feature of the space steal. Only when you understood and grasped this little bit of writing would the second row of steals be open to you. Otherwise, you would never be able to get up. The same was true for the mind word steal. Each word was floating and wandering, and you could only concentrate your mind to comprehend and understand. There was no other way. The law of time steal was even more so. Only a dozen words could be seen in the first row, but people who just arrived could not recognize a single word. What the hell? These words do not even have a shape. How can people see the clues? Are we supposed to be word experts? One of the nebula stage experts from the bug race could not help but yell. However, as soon as the words left his mouth, a golden thunderbolt fell from the sky and turned him into ashes. Some warriors looked at him with disdain. They had already told him that this was a forbidden area left behind by the ancient gods, yet he still dared to speak without thinking. Serve him right. However, there is a certain degree of truth to what this person said. Not only did one need talent to comprehend the stone steals, one also needed strength and endurance. At this time, Yihua the Fire Chilan Empire took out a cold stone. After absorbing it, a cool and refreshing air entered his eyes, and the words on the stone tablet began to faintly appear. Oh, Longsure! Everyone took out the cold stones. With the help of the cold stones, they gradually saw the words on the stone tablet. However, seeing it clearly didn't mean that you understood it. Those words didn't match up at all. Moreover, some of the words were difficult to understand. It was impossible to understand their meaning. Some people looked and suddenly laughed. Some looked and suddenly cried. Some shook their heads as if in ecstasy. There were also some who remained silent and didn't understand a thing. Everyone had prepared a large number of cold stones. Every time the cold stone's power was exhausted, a new cold stone would be used. At this time, if they did not have enough, they would definitely be eliminated. More and more warriors entered Floating Island, and fewer people did not come. When new warriors arrived, they would immediately go to the divine steals to comprehend. The place gradually quieted down. Everyone was seizing every moment, because only one person could reach the top of each divine steal. The surrounding people were all competitors. If someone else reached the top first, then everyone else would lose their chance. The small spaceship shuttled through the galaxy, gradually approaching Floating Island. It had been sailing for almost half a month, and it was less than 2 days away from Floating Island. Lin Jun sat on a reclining chair in the small spaceship, sharing the information he saw in the dimensional universe to the screen of the small spaceship. Next to Lin Jun, the small phoenix stood on another chair and looked at the big screen. Since a few days ago, Lin Jun was afraid that the small phoenix would be bored, so he occasionally shared some things from the dimensional universe to relieve the small phoenix's boredom. However, the small phoenix was not easy to please. Ordinary things could not arouse its interest at all. Only some shocking news could attract its attention. For example, news about the chaotic Star River. Lin Jun found that the small phoenix liked to read. However, the situation inside Floating Island could not be transmitted. There was a special force field there that prevented images and information from being transmitted. A few days later, the small phoenix no longer paid attention to the chaotic Star River. It seemed to be absent-minded. Lin Jun saw that the small phoenix's mood was not very good, and he did not feel very good. The small phoenix was like Xiaowan. It was connected to Lin Jun by blood. If it was not happy, Lin Jun was not happy. He had to find a way to make it happy. Little baby, how about I find some information about phoenixes for you? The small phoenix's eyes lit up, and it looked at Lin Jun expectantly. Lin Jun immediately ordered Chrissy, find all the information about phoenixes you can find and relieve our small phoenix's boredom. Yes, master. Soon, a lot of information about phoenixes appeared on the big screen, and Chrissy listed it all out. Come, little baby, look at these things. They're all about your race, stories, legends, and so many. The small phoenix tilted its head and looked at it with interest at first, but after Lin Jun flipped through it for a while, it seemed to have lost interest. What's wrong? You don't like it? The small phoenix did not make a sound, but its lack of interest showed that it had seen these things. Lin Jun thought silently for a moment. The small phoenix must have lived with humans before, so it was not surprising that it had seen this information. However, with Lin Jun's current authority in the dimensional universe, he can only find so much information. If he wants to see more information, he needs a higher authority. Lin Jun currently has several authority identities. One is the feudal lord of the Sky River Empire, one is the Shura king of the Shura field, and one is the platinum client of the Sanjiang Federation. These three identities are not high. At least in the eyes of the Fire Qilin, they are not worth mentioning at all. If he wants to increase his authority, Lin Jun needs a higher identity. Looking at the unhappy appearance of the small phoenix, Lin Jun thought for a while, then said to Chrissy, "Go to the universe's first bank branch on the Holy Planet." In the next moment, Lin Jun appeared in front of the bank branch. Opening an account. How much money do you need to deposit for the highest level of customer authority? It's like this, sir. We need 100 million Qilin coins to open an account. Silver customers need 1 billion. Gold customers need 10 billion. Diamond customers need 100 billion. And Supreme customers need the highest level, but they need to collect universe crystals. 10 billion universe crystals can be used to open a Supreme customer card. Lin Jun nodded. 10 billion universe crystals is indeed a large amount of wealth in an advanced civilization. It is indeed enough to open a Supreme customer account. This is the highest level, right? No, a 1-star Supreme customer account is 10 billion. Every 10 billion universe crystals can be used to upgrade 1-star level. The highest is 9 stars. When Lin Jun heard this, he immediately checked his wealth. In the World Stone, Lin Jun still had more than 20 billion universe crystals left. Later, after many plundering, his total wealth exceeded 30 billion. Open a 3-star Supreme customer account for me. If that's the case, I don't have the authority to receive you. I will inform our manager. He and the vice president will come to receive you immediately. Lin Jun waited for a while, and the vice president and manager from Fire Qilin's side ran over eagerly and tried to please him. Lin Jun had seen this kind of thing many times, so he didn't pay much attention to their eagerness. After depositing 30 billion universe crystals, Lin Jun had the highest identity so far, the first bank of the universe, Fire Qilin Empire's 3-star Supreme customer card. This was a noble identity, and the access authority was almost equivalent to the emperor of an intermediate civilization. With this identity, Lin Jun's AI crazy also leveled up, and the access authority increased greatly. After doing all this, Lin Jun left the bank and asked Crazy again, "Is there more information about the phoenix?" "Let me check." "Yes, master. I will send it up immediately." Soon, some new information appeared on the big screen. "Baby, look at these things. Are they things you haven't seen before?" The little phoenix turned its head slowly, as if it didn't believe that Lin Jun could find something it didn't know. But it was stunned when it saw it. The new information on the screen was called the Phoenix's 3 tribulations. The phoenix, the supreme bird among the galactic beasts, has 3 tribulations. The first is the injury tribulation, which is close to death. The second is the love tribulation, which is infatuated into nothingness. The third is the death tribulation, which is hard to escape. But the third tribulation is not a phoenix. Seeing these words, Lin Jun was stunned. How could the phoenix's fate be so rough? Could it be that the little phoenix, who was connected to him by blood, also had to go through such tribulations? Looking at the words, hard to escape, Lin Jun's heart was in a bad mood. Turn it off, turn it off. What kind of nonsense is this? It's all lies to deceive people." Crazy turned off the big screen, but the little phoenix didn't come back to its senses for a long time. These words obviously had an effect on the little phoenix. Lin Jun was worried about it, but after a while, the little phoenix's mood rose as if it had figured something out. It was rare for it to take the initiative to jump into Lin Jun's arms and lay on his chest obediently, allowing Lin Jun to smooth out its feathers. When it was happy and comfortable, it would chirp a few times cheerfully. Lin Jun quickly put the matter of the phoenix's 3 tribulations to the back of his mind. That night, the little phoenix didn't sleep alone, but lay in Lin Jun's arms for the whole night. The next morning, Lin Jun woke up to the little phoenix's chirping. Chapter 513. Looking at the starry sky outside, Lin Jun stood up and stretched. "We're almost there. We'll be at Sky Island in a while. Little baby, follow me. Go wherever I go." Chirp, chirp. The little phoenix chirped a few times, then gently patted the door of the spaceship with its wings. "What's up? You're bored and want to go out?" The little phoenix nodded. Lin Jun thought about it. After all, it was a galactic beast. It was not easy for it to be so patient with him for so long. There was no harm in going out. Opening the cabin door, Lin Jun walked out of the spaceship with the little phoenix. After leaving the spaceship, the little phoenix flapped its wings and circled in the air a few times, chirping. Lin Jun said to it, "Don't fly too far. We're almost at Sky Island." The little phoenix flew back into Lin Jun's arms. It buried its furry little head in Lin Jun's arms and rubbed against him. Lin Jun enjoyed the little phoenix's rare affection. He smiled and said, "Why are you so obedient today? Is there something you want to eat again?" Lin Jun ran his fingers gently across the little phoenix's feathers. The little phoenix's wounds had been healed very well. Its feathers were bright and colorful. Lin Jun thought that if the world's top dog was chosen, his little phoenix would definitely be the prettiest bird in the world. Patter! A bright red bead fell from the little phoenix's eye and landed in Lin Jun's palm. "What's this?" Lin Jun was stunned. He picked up the bead and looked at it. It was blood red, like a ruby, but in the shape of a water droplet. The little phoenix broke free from Lin Jun's arms, flapped its wings, and circled in the air. Suddenly, Lin Jun had a bad feeling. After the little phoenix circled around a few times, it let out a melodious cry, as if it was bidding farewell to Lin Jun. "Little phoenix, where are you going?" Lin Jun was a little worried. After a series of chirps, the small phoenix in the air looked at Lin Jun. With this glance, the little phoenix seemed to have changed. It was no longer the cute little bird from before. Instead, it had turned into a divine bird that looked down on everything. Her elegance was unforgettable. Chirp, chirp. Following a long cry, the little phoenix flapped its wings and transformed into a fiery red streak of light that shot into the depths of the starry sky. Its speed was something Lin Jun had never seen before. It was even faster than the ship he was in. It quickly disappeared from Lin Jun's sight. Holding the teardrop-shaped ruby in his hand, Lin Jun felt a sense of loss. After all, it was not an ordinary galactic beast, and it could not stay with humans for a long time. As the top galactic beast among the galactic beasts, the vast universe was its home. It was just that after getting along for so long, Lin Jun and Little Phoenix already had feelings for each other. It suddenly left Lin Jun very unaccustomed to it. Looking at the direction Little Phoenix left, Lin Jun took a deep breath. I'm still a little unsettled. It feels like I've lost a family member. This is not good. It's a taboo for martial artists. Relying on his strong willpower, Lin Jun suppressed the uncomfortable feeling. Little Phoenix, if fate wills it, let's meet again another day. I wish you all the best. Turning around and boarding the ship, Lin Jun quickly calmed down. Since the starry sky was its home, giving it freedom was undoubtedly the best choice. Let's go, full speed ahead to Sky Island. The ship accelerated and quickly rushed towards the slowly moving meteorite belt, in front of the spirit tablet on Sky Island. The Scorpio commander from the insectoid race stood up and jumped onto the second row of stone pillars that were even taller than the previous one. He was not the first person to successfully pass the first row of stone pillars. During this period of time, there were already dozens of people who had passed the first row of stone pillars and successfully advanced. Even Yihua from the Fire Qilin, the Mantis commander from the Bug race, Lanka from the Lantis Empire, and Gennaro from the Rakshasa Empire had already advanced to the third pillar. A martial artist from the Lantis Empire looked at the line of abstract words with red eyes. It's not working. I can't understand the meaning of these words at all. I can even feel the spiritual pressure coming from them. It's almost suffocating. Am I going to be eliminated? This is impossible. I don't believe it. I'm the #1 expert of a younger generation in our galaxy. How can I not understand the contents of the first pillar? I can't even comprehend it. He was very anxious because there weren't many people around him who were still comprehending. The continuous advancement of others had a considerable impact on his mentality. In his anxiety, he could not understand the words that he had originally comprehended. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I failed. The martial artist was in a daze. A pressure descended from the sky and directly knocked him off the pillar. The #1 genius of a galaxy was defeated before he could even comprehend the words on the first pillar. Falling from the pillar, the martial artist left in a daze. He simply could not accept this cruel reality. However, he could not change anything. This was the world of martial artists. He was not the only one who failed. There were about 300 people who climbed the pillars. Now, 1/10 of them had been eliminated in the first stage. 2 of them were from the Fire Qilin Empire. One was Lan Yu, a member of Feng Qingluan's Qingluan Association. The other was Duanmu, a staunch admirer of Yihua. After they failed, they did not leave immediately. Instead, they stayed on Sky Island to see how the others were doing. Lan Yu, who do you think will be the champion of Sky Island and the champion of the camp? Duanmu asked. If our boss is here, I think our boss will be the champion. She's extremely talented. Comprehending the divine steels will not be a problem for her. You mean Feng Qingluan? Even if she's here, I'm afraid she's not as good as Yihua. Yihua is the first person to reach the third row. So what? In my heart, our boss is the strongest. However, she seems to have been plotted against and left with injuries. It would be great if she could come back now. Duanmu nodded. Don't think too much. It's not that I don't recognize your boss's strength. She's the only one in the Empire who could be compared with Yihua. Even Nan Lai is slightly weaker. However, even if she comes back now, it's useless. Yihua and the others have already formed the first group. They will probably reach the 4th layer in 1 or 2 days. With such a big lead, if their talents are similar, it's impossible to catch up. Lan Yu did not say anything. She was thinking about something. Someone is coming. There's someone coming at this time. Duanmu said. Lan Yu's eyes suddenly lit up. Is it our boss? She turned around and saw a person flying in the distance. A pair of wings spread out behind him. The lightning and light energy were flashing on the wings. It's not boss. It's a man. When a man came closer, Lan Yu frowned. It's you, Lin Jun. Lin Jun saw Lan Yu, and recognized her. Wasn't she the most unruly woman in front of Feng Qingluan's gang at the city gate that day? Although Lin Jun didn't like this person, they were on the same side after all. Therefore, he still greeted her. Hello, Lan Yuer. You have to call me by my name. Lin Jun, I'm curious. How did someone like you have the courage to come to the floating island? Did you overestimate yourself and think that you have a share in the divine monument? Hee, am I not even qualified to try? It's useless even if you try. Lin Jun, this is floating island. You're lucky that you can't use force here. I heard from Feng Hong, that you rejected our boss's offer. This matter isn't over. Lin Jun didn't answer her. Although Lan Yu was also a galactic level 1, she was nothing in Lin Jun's eyes. If it was Feng Qingluan who said so, Lin Jun would have to consider it. She didn't care. Lin Jun walked slowly to the divine monument and checked it one by one. After looking at it, Lin Jun couldn't make a decision for a while. It could be said that these 3 divine monuments were very useful to Lin Jun. Whether it was the power of time, the power of space, or the power of mind, these 3 were what Lin Jun urgently needed. I need to make a choice now. I need all of them, but I can't comprehend all of them. I have to make a choice. The power of mind is currently at a bottleneck for me, but I am confident that there will be a breakthrough sooner or later. Moreover, the current power of mind is enough. If I comprehend it now, I am afraid it will be a waste of opportunity. Between the time law and the space law, the time law is undoubtedly more difficult to comprehend. After all, I came here relatively late. If I try to comprehend the silence monument, I am afraid I won't have enough time. If I fail the last minute, this trip will be in vain. So, the most suitable one for me at present, and I hope to comprehend it within a year, is the Boundary Monument. Lin Jun looked up and saw Yi Hua of the Fire Qilin Empire standing up and climbing from the 3rd row of stone pillars to the 4th row. Wow, Yi Hua is so handsome. He has only been here for less than a month, and he has already climbed to the 4th row of stone pillars. He is the real genius. It's hopeless. Everyone else has no hope. Every divine monument has a person who can climb to the top. There is no doubt that Yi Hua will climb to the top of the Boundary Monument. The others are probably regretting it now. Why did they choose to comprehend it together with Yi Hua? Isn't that just looking for a beating? The surrounding people exclaimed. Obviously, they thought that the champion of the Boundary Monument had already been decided. Lin Jun took a deep breath. He had to take a risk by doing this. Yi Hua had already climbed to the 4th row. If he wanted to catch up, the chances were not high. However, Lin Jun had never been afraid of challenges. Yi Hua was nothing more than a genius from a high-level civilization. If he couldn't even climb over this small mountain, how could he reach the top? It's here. I want to see who will be first. Chapter 514. The boundary steel contained the law of space. In terms of profundity, it was even higher than the mind steel. Lin Jun climbed up a stone pillar in the 1st row. The surroundings were empty. There were only 3 or 4 people in the entire 1st row. A bug race galactic level 1 expert glanced at Lin Jun. Hee, you're Lin Jun. I didn't expect you to still dare to come. Why wouldn't I dare? Lin Jun asked. You're stupid. Have you forgotten how many people were after you? It's a pity that you ran away in the end. You actually came back to die. Don't think that you're safe just because you can't use force on the floating island. I can guarantee that when the floating island ends, countless people will come after you. Lin Jun looked around. Sure enough, countless eyes were looking at him. They were all filled with greed, as if he was a pile of cosmic crystals. Since I'm here, I might as well take it easy. Who knows what will happen in a year? You're so stubborn. It's easy to come, but when you want to leave, you won't be able to. Lin Jun closed his eyes slightly and ignored the bug race warrior. Instead, he took out a cold stone and absorbed its aura. When the aura of the cold stone entered his eyes, Lin Jun's eyes lit up. A few blurry words appeared on the sky steel. Space is a physical form of existence. It's made up of lines of different heights and widths. Within the lines is space. To master space, one must first integrate with time and space. Mind power. The front part of the words was clear, while the back part was blurry. From the very beginning, it pulled people into an imagination. This was a profound topic. It wasn't easy to study and understand the power of space. However, Lin Jun had a feeling that the content on the first row of stone pillars wasn't that profound to him. Lin Jun had already learned the method of folding space, mastered the space cut, and even created the dark star space. The twin space stones had given him endless space imagination. It could be said that Lin Jun was no longer a primary school student or a beginner on the path of space research. He was already at the entry level. The content on the stele was more specific and more accurate in describing the profound meaning of space. Lin Jun just needed to understand it further. Therefore, Lin Jun felt that he would pass the first level very quickly. Tianzi, have you seen Lin Jun come? A fire Chilan warrior beside Tianzi on the Mind Power Sky stele asked. Of course I did. That brat is really bold. He actually dares to appear on Levitating Island. He doesn't know how to spell the word death. It's even better that you are here. Is the bounty of 10 billion cosmos crystals that you promised back then still effective? Only good. Don't fight with me. I'll help you take Lin Jun's life when this is over. Then you have to treat me well. Half of the people on Sky Island want Lin Jun's life. Look at the way people look at Lin Jun. Do you think you can get this deal? That martial artist looked around before snorting coldly. Then I'll have to try too. By then, we'll see who's faster. Who knows? I might be the first to get rid of Lin Jun. For the sake of 10 billion cosmos crystals, I'll have to try no matter what. You're not the only one who wants to try. I'll do it myself. If I can kill Lin Jun first, I'll save the 10 billion cosmos crystals. That's all I have. Tianzi had earned a lot of money from the World Stone. That was why he had so much money. However, he wasn't confident that he could kill Lin Jun alone. That was why he came up with this plan. If he could get rid of Lin Jun without spending money, that would be the best. With the huge bounty bestowed by heaven, Lin Jun attracted a lot of attention the moment he arrived. Aside from wanting to kill Lin Jun and reap the huge bounty, they also wanted to see how this newcomer, who was worth 10 billion, would perform. People scoffed at Lin Jun for taking the initiative to climb the boundary stele. It could be said that the boundary stele was the most unwise choice. Yihua was already there, and he was already on the fourth row. With this dragon among men, the others could only be bystanders. When they were choosing the sky stele and saw that Yihua had chosen the boundary sky stele, the others who wanted to choose this sky stele gave up. They didn't want to compete with him. Even the top expert from other countries had to admit Yihua's strength. The stone pillars were in the shape of a pyramid. There was only one stone pillar on the 10th row, and only one person could reach the top. Reckless. Brainless. I think Lin Jun can only comprehend 40% at most. He can't even comprehend 40%. Even if he did, he would have to reach the 8th floor's stone pillar. There are only 3 stone pillars on the 8th floor, and Yihua will definitely take one of them. The others are also far ahead of him. I think it'll be good if he can comprehend 25% of the 5th row. Isn't this better? If the opponent is weaker, we can easily kill him. Tianzi is also brainless. This kind of person is worth 10 billion universe crystals for a bounty. He's simply burning money. Why you care so much? It's good to earn money. Hurry up and cultivate. A year will pass in the blink of an eye. The warriors quickly stopped paying attention to Lin Jun. Since they couldn't fight now, it was better to make use of the time to cultivate. But just as they started cultivating, Lin Jun made a move. Lin Jun, who had been on the first floor for less than an hour, stood up and jumped onto the 2nd row of stone pillars. What? This is impossible. How'd he do it? The only way to go from the 1st row to the 2nd row was to comprehend the words on it. Only when one truly comprehended the words would the pressure blocking one's advance disappear and the path to the 2nd row would open. There was no other way. How could he rush up to the 2nd row in such a short time? Could it be that Lin Jun, a level 7 stellar system, had already comprehended the space law? This situation shocked the people on the boundary heavenly stele. Even Yihua, who was sitting on the 4th row of stone pillars, turned to look at Lin Jun. But regardless of what they thought, Lin Jun had already sat down on the 2nd row. Words appeared before his eyes again. After absorbing the cold stone, the words gradually became clearer. The words on the second row of stone pillars described the use of space power. Linjun wasn't unfamiliar with this, but the things he learned were too one-sided. These words would take him a few days to digest and absorb. After looking at the words, Lin Jun silently closed his eyes to comprehend them. He kept deducing in his mind. When he encountered something he didn't understand, he would enter the dimensional universe to practice it himself. Time started to pass little by little. On the 5th day, Lin Jun ascended to the 3rd row. Yihua, who seemed to have been stimulated by Lin Jun, succeeded in comprehending the 4th row on the 7th day and took the lead in ascending to the 5th row. He was also the fastest on the entire floating island. On the 25th day, Lin Jun ascended to the 4th row and once again made an impact on Yihua's leading position. It was only then that people realized that this seemingly unremarkable young man, Lin Jun, had terrifying potential. He had started from the 1st row and actually chased after Yihua all the way. Currently, Yihua was alone on the 5th row of the boundary heavenly steel. Only 11 people were in the 4th row with Lin Jun. Although the rest of the people were in the 4th row, their speed was obviously not as fast as Yihua's. It was basically impossible for them to surpass Yihua. Many people started to hate Lin Jun after their idols were attacked. "You're Lin Jun?" Lin Jun had just ascended to the 4th row when Yihua, who was on the 5th row in front of him, suddenly turned around. That's right. Yihua was indeed incomparably handsome. He looked back at Lin Jun and revealed a charming smile. "I am proud of you. You are our Fire Qilin's most outstanding genius. You flatter me. You don't have to be so humble. You've done very well. I believe that if you're lucky, you'll be able to reach the 9th level of the boundary heavenly steel." "Oh, what about the 10th floor?" "Haha, I didn't even believe that I could reach the 10th floor before, but Lin Jun, your performance has stimulated my potential. I really have to thank you, really." With that, Yihua stood up and directly ascended to the 6th row. After more than a month, Yihua had already completed half of the journey and ascended to the 6th row. Yihua once again took the lead. There was no one left on the 5th row. Lin Jun smiled and slowly closed his eyes. Yihua finally couldn't hold back anymore. Being the first to ascend to the 6th row didn't necessarily mean that he would be the first to reach the top. The contents of the boundary heavenly steel were becoming increasingly difficult to comprehend. If he wanted to continue, the time he would need to spend would double. If the 10th floor was 100 miles, he hadn't even reached 10 miles. However, in the eyes of others, Yihua's victory was certain. He was 2 steps ahead. This was an insurmountable gap. As expected of Yihua, no one could surpass his talent. He could be said to be our Fire Qilin's #1 genius in 1,000,000,000 years. In the future, becoming a world king won't be a problem. Moreover, I can guarantee that once he becomes a world king, he will be a powerhouse among world kings. While the Fire Qilin's people were discussing, the Spider Commander had been eliminated on the 4th floor of the still heavenly steel. This coquettish woman was eliminated, but she wasn't depressed. Instead, she was communicating with the Mantis Commander in the dimensional universe. Immediately go to the outside of Levitating Island and lay down a spiderweb array to seal off the island. Once this matter is over, we will catch all the Fire Qilin's people in one fell swoop. Our plan absolutely cannot fail. This is a very crucial step. I understand, Commander. I have already prepared. At this time, everyone is busy comprehending. No one will notice me. By the time they notice, everything will be too late. The Spider Commander pretended to be indignant as she left Levitating Island. After leaving the island, she immediately began to spread her spiderweb. Her spiderweb was very dense. As long as she had enough time to lay it down, even a Nebula Stage Master would be trapped to death. But just as she finished, a voice came from behind her. Chapter 5:15. When the Spider Commander heard this voice, its entire body trembled, and it quickly turned around. "It's you." The woman behind her was wearing a fiery dress and a flower in her hair. Her eyes were shining. On her jade-like face, her eyebrows were picturesque, and there was a cinnabar mole between her eyebrows. It made her already otherworldly beauty reach another level, as if she was not a human being. However, Her beautiful face was as cold as ice. No one dared to get close to her. It was Feng Qingwan, who had been missing for almost 9 months. The spider commander had participated in the hunt for Feng Qingwan. She knew that Feng Qingwan had been severely injured. She thought that Feng Qingwan would be safe on the floating island. She didn't expect that she would come back. Not only did she come back, but she also seemed to be very different from before. Her dress was fluttering in the air. Her body was like a dancing flame. She emitted a vast star power. She had reached level 8 of the Nebula Realm. When Feng Qingwan fought with them, she was only level 6 of the Nebula Realm. How could she reach level 8 so quickly? How dare you come back? Feng Qingwan's eyes narrowed. Why wouldn't I dare? Ever since the establishment of the Azure One Association, we have never feared anyone. Fighting for territory, destroying events, robbing resource planets. I have been hunted down countless times, and there were a few times where I almost died, but I managed to survive. As for my enemies, they have all turned into white bones. If I don't dare to return, how can I talk about leading the Azure One Association? Wouldn't a person like you be too arrogant? While speaking, Feng Qingwan walked forward slowly. She had been a gang boss for many years. She had a domineering aura that normal women didn't have. The spider commander's face turned pale. She had felt the huge gap between her and Feng Qingwan. She was no match for her. However, she had no way out. She knew that if she dared to turn around and run, she would be attacked by Feng Qingwan. The spider commander made up her mind and said coldly, Feng Qingwan, since you are so aggressive, we can only fight. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you have improved your strength. You are still far away. Ga. An unpleasant roar resounded through the starry sky. 6 thick, hairy legs tore her clothes apart, and her originally charming face instantly became hideous and terrifying, like a demon. Astral power burst out, and a group of small spiders emerged from behind her. The Spider Queen's ultimate skill, Split. These little spiders landed on the ground and immediately transformed into a group of spider warriors whose strength had reached the pinnacle of the black hole level. Kill this woman. The Spider Queen rose into the air and shrunk to the size of a small spaceship. She began to brew spider silk. As long as these little spider warriors could delay Feng Qingwan for a while, she could use her spiderweb skill. If she could cover Feng Qingwan for a while, she could escape back to the floating island. As soon as these black hole stage spider warriors appeared, they immediately howled and rushed forward with their weapons. Moreover, these spiders were black in color, and it was obvious that they were poisonous. Their stomachs were huge, and they could explode at any time. This was the Spider Queen's ultimate move. When a group of peak black hole warriors self-destructed, even a nebula stage cultivator would not be able to withstand it. Looking at these spiders who were like a suicide squad, Feng Qingwan raised her eyebrows slightly and showed disdain. A 3-meter-long broadsword appeared in Feng Qingwan's hand. The broadsword was green, and the green murderous aura spread 10 feet away. As soon as it was unsheathed, the sound of dragons and tigers roaring could be heard. This was an upper-grade divine artifact, but the murderous aura in it was definitely not from the divine artifact, but from the fact that this broadsword had killed too many people. When such a broadsword was inserted into the ground, any low-level martial artist who approached it would be injured by the murderous aura contained in it. If it was placed in the sky, even birds hundreds of miles away would have to fly around it. Kill! Her beautiful voice spat out the words that were as cold as frost, and it was like thunder in spring. The machete swept out, sweeping away 1,000 troops. A long puff. It was not one person who fell, but a group of people. These spider warriors who had no fear at all were killed by Feng Qingwan's broadsword. Her red dress was like fire. She rushed into the crowd and slashed up and down. Her broadsword aura was everywhere. Her skills were all cultivated by fighting. Slashing people on the street was also a kind of art when it was practiced to the extreme. The broadsword aura made the broken limbs fly all over the sky, and the blood of thousands of spider warriors filled the sky. None of them could use the ability that could self-destruct and no one could get close to her. Groups of spiders were killed. 10 seconds. In just 10 seconds, over 1,000 spider warriors had been killed. In the blood mist, Feng Qingwan walked slowly. There was no dirt or mess on her body. No one knew if the blood of the spider warriors floated away or was absorbed by her red dress. In the air, the spider commander had just finished brewing the spider silk. Above the ugly and ferocious face, the fangs in its mouth opened and closed continuously. Feng Qingwan, you shouldn't have come back. Today is the day you die. Bam! A huge spider web fell from the sky. This spider web contained the power of space, and even the space was locked. Around Feng Qingwan, the space was frozen and the pressure was everywhere. This attack was impossible to dodge. Once caught in the web, even the star domain stage would be in a mess, let alone the galaxy stage. Feng Qingwan was not afraid at all. Holding the broadsword with one hand, she stretched out a slender finger, and a green flame exploded from the tip of her finger. The green flame represented the highest level of flame. Although Feng Qingwan's flame was only light green, it was extremely powerful. The Spider Queen was still shouting, "It's useless. My spider web is endless, and the intruder can't escape. Your flame won't be able to burn through it in a short time. Feng Qingwan, you can play by yourself. Wait for me to go back and call for help. This time, you can't run away." After that, the spider commander turned and ran. A scorching heat wave swept over from behind and shrouded it in an instant. The strong smell of barbecued meat filled the air, and the spider commander kept screaming, "Impossible! How can your flame burn through my spider web so quickly?" Do you still need to ask? You're not the only one in the world who's improving. Using my flame to deal with you is simply a waste. After that, Feng Qingwan walked forward slowly and didn't look at her anymore. The spider commander's screams soon stopped, and what was left was a pile of ashes. One of the 7 insectoid commanders, and the only female commander, the spider commander, had fallen in the chaotic Star River. Walking to the side of the asteroid belt, Feng Qingwan stopped in her tracks. Under her long eyelashes, there was a hint of hesitation in her eyes. After standing there for a while, Feng Qingwan took a deep breath. "What are you hesitating for? It's just a passing cloud." Her long dress swayed, and she stepped into the floating island. Spider is dead. The moment the spider commander died, the remaining 6 insectoid commanders received the news. The mantis commander's face turned cold. Spider only went out for 10 minutes, and it takes 10 minutes to cross the asteroid belt. That means she was killed in a few minutes, and she didn't even have time to escape. Who has such great ability? The Scorpio commander thought for a while. The only one at war with us is the Fire Qilin Empire, and Yuhua's been there all this time. Other than Feng Qingwan, I can't think of anyone else who has such great ability. Feng Qingwan, you're right. It can only be her. I really didn't expect this woman to still dare to come and cause trouble. Didn't you say her injuries are very serious, and she won't recover in a short time? Who knows? Maybe there's something special. Then what should we do? Should we go out and kill her now? No. Comprehending the divine steel is very important. It's best not to complicate things. As long as we succeed, none of them will be able to escape. Don't forget, we have a spy on the Fire Qilin side. Will that person listen to us? Haha, he thinks his cover is perfect, but I already know who he is. Don't worry, at the critical moment, he won't be able to not listen to us, even if he doesn't want to. Hey, it's that woman. She's here. Outside the floating island, a figure in red suddenly appeared. Soon, the figure turned into a stream of light and moved along the ground at high speed. Soon, the figure arrived near the divine steel. There's a beauty in the north, unique and independent. With one look, she could topple a country, and with another, she could topple a city. If Feng Qingwan wasn't so cold and ruthless, she would definitely be worthy of those words. Boss, it's really you. You're finally here. Woo-woo. I thought I couldn't see you coming. Lanyu was the first one to jump up and run towards Feng Qingwan. You don't have confidence in me? You should be punished. Lan Yu ran to Feng Qingwan and wanted to hug her beautiful boss, but she didn't dare to get too close. She could only smile with tears in her eyes. On the contrary, the other people from the Fire Qilin side didn't seem to welcome her. Although Feng Qingwan was good, she was a gang leader, and she wasn't very popular among the martial artists. As the saying goes, you're a beautiful woman, but you're a thief. Feng Qingwan didn't care about other people's gazes. She strode over and came to the front of the divine steel. Qingwan, you're here. Above the sky, on the 6th row of the boundary steel, Yi Hua's gentle voice sounded. Feng Qingwan looked up at him, nodded slightly, and didn't say anything else. She glanced behind Yi Hua, glanced at the crowd, paused for a moment, and then turned to another divine steel. Spiritual power divine steel, illusion steel. Spiritual power cultivation. This is not bad, just suitable for me. This first place, I want it. After that, Feng Qingwan jumped up and directly stepped on the first divine steel. No one said that Feng Qingwan was arrogant or anything. She was originally a peerless figure who could be compared with Yi Hua. Not to mention the matter of Lin Jun. No one dared to say that Feng Qingwan was definitely not good. After all, less than 2 months had passed. Far away, Lin Jun saw Feng Qingwan for the second time. He felt that Feng Qingwan was very beautiful, but Lin Jun didn't remember her beauty, but looked at the Zhusha mole between her eyebrows. Chapter 516. Brother, don't look anymore. Feng Qingwan is not a woman that anyone can covet. You won't be able to get her. She belongs to Yi Hua. Beside Lin Jun, a Fire Qilin warrior saw that Lin Jun was staring at Feng Qingwan and reminded him. This warrior was called Zhang Zhe. He was not young and was about to be 100 years old. He was the oldest in this concentration camp. His aptitude was not bad. Although he was not the best, he was now on the 4th row of the boundary monument. Is she related to Yi Hua? Lin Jun asked. It's somewhat related. Back then, when she was injured, she was together with Yi Hua. The two of them encountered several insectoid commanders. Yi Hua was also injured at that time, but her injuries were more severe. I heard that Yi Hua once said that he has 2 pursuits in his life. One is the peak of martial arts, and the other is Feng Qingwan. Ordinary people don't know about this matter, but we do. Lin Jun looked at Yi Hua and then looked at Feng Qingwan. They're a good match, but Yi Hua has a long way to go. Feng Qingwan is just a friend to him. If Yi Hua can't get her, who can control this woman? Brother Zhang, don't worry. I won't do that kind of unrealistic dream. Lin Jun didn't mean anything. He just felt that Feng Qingwan gave him a familiar feeling. He also felt that he had seen that cinnabar mole somewhere before. I must be wrong. After sorting out his emotions, Lin Jun quickly turned his attention back to the divine monument. Not long after he started to comprehend the monument, there was an uproar in the crowd. It turned out that Feng Qingwan had reached the 2nd row. So fast. She is even faster than Lin Jun when he was comprehending the boundary monument. She only used half an hour. She is much faster than Lan Kavlantis. Although Lan Ka has reached the 5th row, Feng Qingwan might be able to surpass him. Yi Hua and Feng Qingwan are the 2 peerless beauties of the Fire Qilin Empire. Why do I feel that these 2 are a good match? Lin Jun was not disturbed by other things. He was focused on his own things. The crowd also entered the state of comprehension. The fierce competition started again. Time passed by quickly. On the 3rd month, Lin Jun broke through the 4th row and arrived at the 5th row, catching up to Yi Hua's back. In the 4th month, Yi Hua broke through from the 6th row and entered the 7th row. He was still 2 rows ahead of Lin Jun, but Lin Jun had gained some time. In fact, he was already half a row ahead of Yi Hua. At the end of the 4th month, Lin Jun once again made a breakthrough and entered the 6th row. At this time, there were only 2 other martial artists in the same row as him, including Yi Hua, who was in front of him. The 4 of them could be considered the first group. At the beginning of the 6th month, Yi Hua was the first to make a breakthrough and enter the 8th row, while Lin Jun entered the 7th row. The 2 of them improved almost at the same time. Initially, they were 2 spots short, but now they were finally 1 spot short. Although people felt that Yi Hua should be able to obtain the first place of the boundary heavenly steel with just 1 spot in the lead, There was no doubt that Lin Zhen's valiant performance gave Yihua too much pressure. Yihua, who had always been the first place, who had outstanding talent, who was the idol of the people, actually showed a panicked expression under Lin Zhen's swift and fierce pursuit. Cold stones were used one by Yihua. From time to time, he would raise his hand and wipe his forehead. Looking at the huge boundary heavenly steel not far away, he secretly encouraged himself in his heart. Do your best. No one can defeat you. You have already come this far. Comprehending the heavenly steel will not be difficult for you. After 8 months had passed, Lin Zhen had ascended to the 8th row, standing shoulder to shoulder with Yihua. There were only 3 spots in the 8th row. At this time, there was no one around them. If there was no accident, if someone could reach the top of the heavenly steel, it would definitely be between the two of them. Yihua still had some psychological advantage before, but when Lin Zhen was neck and neck with him, his psychological advantage was gone. Lin Zhen had arrived later than Yihua by more than a month, yet he was still able to catch up to him. This clearly showed that Lin Zhen's aptitude and comprehension of the space laws far surpassed Yihua's. A person who had been first for a long time would easily have psychological changes after being surpassed. Lin Zhen saw Yihua glance at him. He did not say a word, but his eyes were no longer gentle, but filled with killing intent. At the beginning of the 9th month, Yihua was the first to enter the 9th row. In the middle of the 9th month, Lin Zhen followed and occupied 2 spots in the 9th row. Besides the 2 of them, no one else could enter the 9th row. Only on the spiritual steel side, Lantis Empire's Lanka and Fire Qilin's Feng Qingluan both entered the 9th row. Feng Qingluan's performance was even stronger. She came later than Lin Zhen, but her momentum was even stronger. When she entered the 9th row, she was actually faster than Lanka by a minute. If there was a winner in the spiritual steel, Feng Qingluan's chances were obviously higher. On the steel of time, Rakshasa Empire's Kinaro was still struggling on the 8th row, unable to ascend to the 9th row. It seemed that it was impossible for him to ascend to the 10th row. After all, the steel of time was the most difficult and the fewest people could pass it. There was also Mantis Commander in the 8th row. His progress was similar to Gennaro's. Because it was the 9th row, Lin Zhen could clearly see the people on the other side of the steel. He could even hear each other's words clearly. On the spiritual steel, Feng Qingluan and Lanka were meditating in 2 different places. Occasionally, they would raise their heads and see Lin Zhen and Yihua. When Yihua saw Feng Qingluan looking over, he immediately revealed a forced smile. "Qingluan, you don't have to worry about me. You know that I have always been number 1 since I was a child. Whatever I do, I will do my best. I have never lost before. I treat all these difficulties as a test for me. They encourage me to move forward, so you can rest assured that I will definitely meet you in the 10th row." Feng Qingluan's face was cold. "Don't force yourself too much. Just try your best." "Of course I won't force myself. How can I force myself to compete with such a person? Right, little brother?" Yihua looked at Lin Zhen again, but he saw that Lin Zhen didn't pay attention to him at all. Instead, he looked at Feng Qingluan from time to time. In Yihua's view, people who dare to stare at Feng Qingluan like this basically wouldn't have a good ending. Even he didn't dare to do so. Lin Zhen would definitely be unlucky in the future. Yihua thought that Feng Qingluan would flare up, but he didn't expect that she would slowly close her eyes. It seemed like she was meditating, but Yihua could feel that Feng Qingluan's mood was not very stable. He immediately became suspicious. He looked left and right between the 2 people. Yihua's face was as dark as the night. He forced himself to close his eyes. Everything had to wait until the end of the meditation. Lin Zhen retracted his gaze from Feng Qingluan. No one knew what he was thinking. After taking a deep breath, he began to meditate. At this point, Lin Zhen already knew that there were only 2 moves in the boundary heavenly steel. One was the space cut used in battle, and the other was the planet teleportation. The space cut was a powerful battle skill formed by endless space cuts. When countless space cracks whizzed over, no one would be able to resist them directly. And the planet teleportation was a long-distance teleportation technique. It could be used to teleport to another planet within one's field of vision. It was best used to escape and save one's life. He knew this situation, and Yihua also knew that after reaching the 9th row, if you couldn't reach the 10th row, you wouldn't be able to learn these two moves. Only by taking a step forward would you be able to learn the final battle skill. Therefore, the gap between the 10th row and the 9th row was like heaven and earth. Lin Jun entered the dimensional arena's simulated reality field. Using his authority as a 3-star supreme customer of the Fire Qilin Empire, he activated the strongest simulated reality field. He set up 10 opponents. Each of them was a nebula stage expert who was proficient in the space law. One of the opponents was standing far away, attacking Lin Jun with space cuts without stopping for a moment. And Lin Jun's goal was to quickly close in on these 10 nebula stage experts and kill them. Ambushing from the front, the unceasing space cuts imitated a bit of the space cut. For the first time, Lin Jun advanced less than 10 meters before the space cut whizzed past him. He simply didn't have time to dodge and was cut into pieces. This is the feeling. Although the power of this space cut is clearly not enough, it already has the embryonic form of the space cut. Yihua's side is definitely doing their best to break through. There's only one position in the 10th row. Whoever can comprehend these two moves first will obtain the final victory. This time, I'll do my best. Lin Jun threw in large amounts of money. Simulating a nebula stage expert in the simulated reality field cost tens of millions. He even simulated tens or hundreds of them at once. Spending tens of billions of money at once could only last for a few seconds. But struggling to survive under such space cracks and dying time after time, Lin Jun gradually gained a deeper understanding of the space cut. 100,000 simulations. In a month's time, Lin Jun's 30 billion Cosmos Crystal card was used up to 20 billion Cosmos Crystals. And after executing the space cut 10,000 times with over 100 nebula stage experts, Lin Jun suddenly distorted the space a few times. With a shake of his hand, 2 space cuts counterattacked. Normal space cuts could only create 1 space crack. Lin Jun could now execute 2 space cuts at once. This was the most basic form of the space cut. With a burst of light circulating around his body, Lin Jun completed half of his comprehension in the 9th row. As long as he had a deeper understanding of the planetary teleportation, he would be able to enter the 10th row. And 3 minutes after Lin Jun finished, Yihua also completed half of his comprehension. He was almost neck to neck with Lin Jun. Previously, Yihua had led Lin Jun by half a month, but now he didn't have any advantage at all. The two were almost on the same starting line. Chapter 517. Relying on his huge wealth, Lin Jun abruptly shortened the gap between him and Yihua. There was still the last round. The winner would win, and the loser would be eliminated. This was the fiercest and cruelest competition. The proud son of the Fire Qilin was being challenged by a young man who hadn't even reached the black hole stage. On the other hand, in the eyes of everyone, Yihua, who was lofty like a god and didn't seem like a mortal at all, had actually panicked. Never having lost was not necessarily a good thing, because he had never suffered any setbacks and had always been smooth sailing. Although he had the strength, but when he encountered a strong challenge, his mental endurance was not as tenacious as those who had been through countless trials and tribulations. When he was in the lead, Yihua could still perform normally, but now that he was on the same starting line as Lin Jun, Yihua was a little impatient. Even some of the warriors around could see that Yihua's situation was not good. Yihua, what are you doing? If you don't concentrate at this time, you will lose. Forget that you are the so-called number 1 of the Fire Qilin. Now you're just an ordinary competitor, a competitor who will lose if you don't work hard. Throw away your stinky arrogance. Nan Lai's scolding made Yihua sober up a lot, and he realized that he was impatient. His talent was also very good. After realizing the problem, he forced himself to calm down, and after a few circulations, he no longer looked at Lin Jun, but focused all his attention on the divine steel. The fierce competition began again. Now there were only 6 people who were still comprehending the divine steel. In addition to Lin Jun and Yihua, there was also Feng Qingwan, Lanka, Gennaro, and the insect commander. In the 10th month, the first person to reach the top was born. At the divine steel, Feng Qingwan stood up and lightly jumped up, directly landing on the only stone pillar in the 10th row. She succeeded. Before her, there were only 79 people who had successfully reached the 10th row in the entire floating island, and Feng Qingwan was the 80th. Her name would be forever engraved here for the future generations to admire. After Feng Qingwan succeeded, Lanka sighed slightly and took the initiative to jump down from the 9th row. Since he couldn't advance, there was no point for him to continue staying. The people from Atlantis Empire wanted to leave, but they were stopped by the people from the Insectoid Empire. After Feng Qingwan, the time Heavenly Steel also changed. The Mantis Commander and Gennaro also ascended to the 9th row almost at the same time, but in less than 2 minutes, they also gave up one after another. The 9th row of the Steel of Time was too difficult for them to comprehend. It was so difficult that they had no hope of completing it. The pressure was so great that they couldn't bear it and had no choice but to give up. As a result, there were only 3 people left on the Heavenly Monument. Feng Qingwan, who was ranked 10th in the Spiritual Power row, and Lin Jun and Yi Hua, who were ranked 9th in the Space row. In Lin Jun's mind, all he could think about was the planetary teleportation technique. I've already mastered the teleportation technique before I reached the Star Realm, but that teleportation technique is completely different from planetary teleportation. If I want to cultivate this technique quickly, I'm afraid I don't have much of an advantage over Yi Hua. After all, he's a late-stage nebula, while I'm only a level 7-star realm cultivator. His astral power surpasses mine by too much, so he has an advantage over me in the same teleportation simulation training. My only advantage is that I have the Dark Star Realm. Compared to him, I have a better training ground. If I want to enter and exit the Dark Star Realm, my astral power needs to reach 1,000 points. Perhaps I should advance. Lin Jun had already been on the floating island for 9 months. He had always been a level 7-star realm cultivator and hadn't had time to advance. Now that the critical moment had arrived, Lin Jun immediately started to break through. On the 9th row of the stone pillars, Lin Jun absorbed a batch of thunder crystals and broke through to the level 8-star realm on the spot. Lin Jun's breakthrough on the spot astonished Yi Hua. He hadn't expected that Lin Jun would still be able to make a breakthrough at such a time. However, in his opinion, whether it was a level 7 or level 8-star, they were too low for him and weren't worth mentioning. It wasn't until 11 months later that Lin Jun broke through for the second time and reached the level 9-star realm that Yi Hua started to take him seriously. The last step of the planetary teleportation technique was a huge headache for Yi Hua. He couldn't really achieve the true planetary teleportation technique. He clearly felt that he had grasped some of the techniques, but he was still missing something. He even wanted to leave the stone pillars and go to space to experiment. Over the past month, he hadn't made any progress. Lin Jun hadn't made any progress either. Instead, he had advanced all the way from level 7-star realm to level 9-star realm. How did this fella advance continuously? One advancement is normal. He might have just reached the threshold of a breakthrough. But what's going on with consecutive advancements? Yi Hua had a bad feeling deep down. He had a feeling that if he didn't do something soon, he would lose this match. I won't lose. I definitely won't lose. I have the bloodline of the super galactic beast, the Golden Dragon. I should be able to soar above the 9 heavens. How can I lose to an opponent who hasn't even reached the black hole stage? I still need a little help. That is. Yi Hua's gaze fell on Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan had already reached the 10th row. Yi Hua could even feel that Feng Qingwan's spiritual energy was about to advance. She was about to break through the Azure Barrier and reach a higher realm. Yi Hua knew that if he wanted to defeat Lin Jun quickly, he would have to borrow some external force. The source of this external force was Feng Qingwan. He locked his gaze on Feng Qingwan, waiting for the moment she succeeded. Lin Jun, on the other hand, was adapting to his new astral power. After 2 consecutive advancements, Lin Zhen's astral power had reached 999. He was only a step away from the 1,000-point mark. At this moment, Lin Zhen also knew that he had grasped the opportunity to master the planetary teleportation. Once his astral power reached 1,000, he would use this opportunity to break through the dark star space. Then, he would be able to enter and exit the dark star space and complete the initial stage of the planetary teleportation. At that time, he would be able to reach the 10th row and learn all the planetary teleportation. However, he was still lacking some strength. He was currently at the early stage of star level 9. As long as he had time to cultivate for 8 to 10 days and absorb some star crystals, his astral power would definitely exceed 1,000. However, he was afraid that it would be too late. On the other hand, Yihua seemed to have found the trick. Perhaps he would break through in these 2 days. While seizing the time to cultivate, Lin Zhen also paid attention to Feng Qingluan's movements. He felt that the key to success or failure of this matter seemed to be the talented gang leader. At this moment, on the floating island, all the martial artists from the insect race, Rakshasa Empire, and Lantis Empire had left. The rest were all Fire Qilins people. They also wanted to see who would win in the end, so they didn't leave. Another 3 days passed. The sky was covered with dark clouds, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Although the floating island had always been like this, today's weather was even more violent. It seemed that something unusual was about to happen. Lin Zhen, success or failure will be determined today. Yihua, who had been cultivating quietly, suddenly said to Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen raised his head, and his eyes fell on Feng Qingluan, who was sitting in the 10th row. He saw that Feng Qingluan's body was surrounded by colorful lights. A huge amount of psychic power gushed out like a tsunami. Her psychic power had advanced. This was no longer the azure psychic power. The original azure light became brighter and brighter, as if it had a life of its own. It became verdant. An emerald green aura with a little bit of starlight flashed. The power of the psychic power alone made people feel endless pressure. Above the azure psychic power was the emerald radiance psychic power. Now is the time. Yihua suddenly threw off his clothes. A golden dragon was hovering behind him. It was very lifelike. I have the bloodline of the supergalactic beast, the golden dragon. I should be the king since I was born. I have said that I have 2 things to pursue. One is the peak of martial arts. The other is Feng Qingluan. Because only she who has the phoenix bloodline is the best match for me. Yihua looked at Lin Zhen with an embarrassed expression. Lin Zhen, I can't help but admire you for being able to force me to this point. Perhaps you're just a step away from breaking through, but unfortunately, you're going to lose. Because Qingluan is here. The bloodline of the true dragon and the phoenix bloodline have a mysterious connection. Now, that Qingluan psychic power has advanced. As long as she passes a little bit of her power to me, I will be able to break through the bottleneck. But no one will help you. Yihua looked at Feng Qingluan and shouted, Qingluan, help me. He didn't have time to rely on comprehension to defeat Lin Zhen. He had to rely on external forces. In the distance, Feng Qingluan slowly opened her eyes. Divine light could be seen in her eyes. The advancement of her mental strength had greatly improved her strength. Looking at Yihua's naked upper body, revealing the power of the golden dragon, and asking for help, Feng Qingluan bit her lips. Qingluan, what are you thinking? Don't forget the agreement between our masters. At this time, you must help me. Yihua was a little anxious. If he didn't have the help of Feng Qingluan, he wouldn't be able to defeat Lin Zhen. He felt that Lin Zhen would be able to break through on his own in the next few days, but he still didn't have any clue about the final comprehension. Lin Zhen also opened his eyes and looked at Feng Qingluan. He wanted to see what this super powerful woman would do. Feng Qingluan stood up, raised her hand, and waved in the direction of Yihua and Lin Zhen. A surge of astral power, like the spring wind and rain, blew in their faces. It's over. It's over. Lin Zhen lost. There is no other way. Who asked Yihua to have such a powerful woman like Feng Qingluan? They have an engagement, right? Otherwise, why would Feng Qingluan listen to Yihua? It seems so, but I think that Feng Qingluan's aptitude is higher than Yihua's. In short, Lin Jun has lost. The dragon and phoenix bloodline are naturally connected. As long as Yihua can borrow a little bit of Feng Qingwan's power, he will be able to break through and reach the 10th floor. Lin Jun has no hope. Chapter 518. A huge amount of star power enveloped him. Yihua only felt comfortable all over his body. Even his pores were cheering. The golden dragon tattoo on his body began to shine. Feng Qingwan's star power was helpful to him. It could be temporarily absorbed for his use. This was the power of bloodline. Great. This is great. I simulated the teleportation of planets, but my power was always a bit lacking. With the help of Qingwan's power, I will definitely succeed. He immediately started the simulation in the dimensional space. After a while, Yihua came out from the dimensional space. Aha! Ha-ha! Success! Thank you, Luan. I will definitely take you as my wife. Lin Jun, now do you know the gap between us? Yihua said, not forgetting to ridicule Lin Jun, who was sitting at the side. Promotion, defeating his opponent, winning the beauty, all these good things happened at the same time. At this moment, he was probably the happiest person in the world. Tidying up his clothes, the barrier in front of him was about to be broken. Yihua was about to go to the 10th row. But at this moment, a figure flashed in front of him. Someone was one step faster than him and went to the 10th row. It was Lin Jun. At this moment, the world quieted down. Yihua's lifted foot was suspended in the air. He couldn't take it out, but he couldn't take it back either. He almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. Lin Jun actually made a fatal move. At the moment when he was about to advance, Lin Jun was 1 second ahead of him. He was completely thrown from heaven into the abyss. This was not an illusion. Lin Jun was 1 step ahead of him. But he had clearly obtained Luan Er's power and completed his comprehension. But Lin Jun was still 1 second ahead of him. Could it be a coincidence? I don't believe it. This is not real. This is not real. Yihua lost his self-control. For the first time, he lost his self-control and roared loudly. The thunderclouds in the sky gathered and golden lightning was brewing. The sound of rolling thunder made Yihua calm down. There were countless flames of anger in his heart, but he didn't dare to show it. It had already been 11 months. Almost a year of hard work had been wasted. The first place that was almost at his fingertips changed after Lin Jun's arrival. He had lost. The most outstanding genius of the Fire Qilin Empire had lost so thoroughly. He didn't even dare to look up at Feng Qingwan. Feng Qingwan had helped him, but he still lost. He felt very ashamed. He could feel that the gazes of the Fire Qilin's people below were filled with pity, sympathy, contempt, ridicule, schadenfreude, and so on. In short, none of them were positive. They were all looking at him as a joke. A raging fury burned in Yihua's heart. He raised his head and looked at Lin Jun, who had already reached the 10th floor. Lin Jun, you win, but winning once doesn't mean you'll always win. Here in the chaotic Star River, we're still competing in kills. Even if you succeed in comprehending on Levitating Island, you'll still lose to me in other aspects. What a beautiful counterattack. What a perfect interception. Lin Jun, you've taught me a lesson today, but I'll return this lesson very soon. Yihua fiercely flung his clothes, jumped down from the stone pillar, and quickly left Levitating Island. The 10th floor had already been occupied by Lin Jun, so it was meaningless for him to stay. Yihua left, and most of the Fire Qilin's warriors also left. No one had thought that the result would be like this. Yihua, who had the help of Feng Qingwan, would still lose to Lin Jun. Moreover, it was just a coincidence that he lost by 1 second, which made him very depressed. On the other hand, after seeing the result, Feng Qingwan was still sitting there quietly and continued to comprehend and cultivate. She was not affected by this matter at all, which made people puzzled. Only Lan Yuer stayed, but she was also cultivating in a place far away. In the entire Divine Monument, there were only 2 people left, Lin Jun and Feng Qingwan. Lin Jun opened his eyes and looked at Feng Qingwan, who was on the other side. Thank you. Your strength seems to have helped Yihua, but in fact, the person who received the greatest help is me. Because of you, I was able to break through first. Feng Qingwan's eyebrows slightly moved, but she didn't open her eyes and didn't respond. It seemed like she didn't want to see Lin Jun. Lin Jun didn't say anything more and closed his eyes to continue comprehending. After reaching the 10th level, everything that he had learned before began to become clear. Lin Jun only needed some time to completely master the star teleportation and space slash. Now, it was already the 11th month since the floating island opened. There were less than 2 months before the meteorite belt outside would resume operation. Lin Jun didn't have much time left. Chris, is my star power now more than 1,000? Yes, master. Just now, with the help of Feng Qingluan, your star power has increased, so your star power has just reached 1,000. So, I can use world teleportation? Yes. Lin Jun nodded. Being able to use world teleportation meant that he could enter the inner world of other world kings through the dark star world in his body. Of course, that world king had to open their inner world to him. This kind of world teleportation could be done with a main body or with a clone. Connect me to the Dimensional Universe Corporation that provides the parasol tree saplings. The call soon connected. Lin Jun spoke with the same person he had spoken with last time. Hello, mister. Have you decided to buy the parasol tree saplings? Yes, but 10 billion cosmos crystals is too high. Can you make it a bit cheaper? I'm very sorry, but the price of 10 billion cosmos crystals is mainly to bear the risk of a world king opening their inner world. Think about it. Those that can use world teleportation are all world king level masters. If they open their inner world and allow another world king to enter, they will have to bear a tremendous risk. The value of every world king is immeasurable. 10 billion cosmos crystals is only the basic security fee. Then it can't be cheaper at all? If you're sure you want to buy it, we can give you the 500 shilling coins for the parasol tree saplings for free. Lin Jun was speechless. He had already spent 10 billion cosmos crystals, so who would care about 500 shilling coins? I'll buy it now. Have your world king open their inner world. All right. Our world king has already made his preparations. His world coordinates are unique to every world king's inner world. When he opens his inner world, you can use these coordinates to enter. Lin Jun's avatar locked onto these coordinates with his star force within the dark star space. World transmission. The dark star suddenly paused. A massive amount of star force flowed out, instantly breaking through the space barrier. A new corner of the world appeared in front of Lin Jun's eyes. His figure moved. In the next moment, Lin Jun's avatar had already entered a new world. This was a barren world. All that could be seen was a vast wilderness. There was only a white-haired old man standing below where Lin Jun had entered, a small tree in his hands. As the old man saw Lin Jun enter, he was clearly stunned. You're the person who wants to buy the parasol tree. That's right. How may I address you? Everyone calls me Senior Moon World King. Why didn't your World King come? Why did a little fellow like you come instead? The World King is busy right now, so he could only send me here. All right, we could trade now. This Senior Moon World King didn't ask any questions. Instead, he handed the parasol tree over to Lin Jun. Lin Jun received the parasol tree. 10 billion universe crystals and 500 shilling coins were transferred over. His net worth of 30 billion universe crystals had already shrunk by 2/3. After receiving the parasol tree sapling, Lin Jun immediately left this world. After all, the other party was a world king master. Lin Jun didn't feel too safe facing him. He broke through the world barrier once more and returned to the dark star space. The parasol tree sapling in his hands was full of vitality, but it wasn't large enough. Lin Jun placed the parasol tree sapling near the starfruit tree. This was the place where the heart of vegetation had been placed, and it was full of energy. Although the power of the heart of vegetation had been exhausted, there was still a surging life force in this place, which was enough to allow the parasol tree to grow rapidly. It won't take long for the parasol tree to grow into a big tree here. At that time, I can move the parasol tree away. The parasol tree is in my hands. I just don't know if I will have a chance to see my little phoenix again. After doing all this, Lin Jun's gaze fell on Feng Qingluan again. Feng Qingluan was cultivating without any distractions. Her emerald ray level spiritual power occasionally flashed, making Lin Jun feel a bit of pressure. Feng Qingwan is now almost the #1 master in the Chaos Star River. Whether it is Yi Hua or the Mantis Commander, they probably won't be her match in a one-on-one fight. I have to hurry up and cultivate. There is still more than a month. I believe that the people from the insect race outside, or even Yi Hua, won't let this go. Once I leave here, there might be a fierce battle. Lin Jun closed his eyes and began a new round of cultivation. At the 10th level, Lin Jun had learned the profound meaning of space/ and planet teleportation. His focus was on practice. He practiced again and again in the dimensional arena. Space/ was a powerful move. Once it was used, endless space cracks would fly. It was extremely difficult to block. However, this move was very powerful and consumed a lot of star power. This move was divided into 10 consecutive slashes, 100 consecutive slashes, 1,000 consecutive slashes, and 10,000 consecutive slashes. Lin Jun was currently able to achieve 10 consecutive slashes and was working hard to cultivate the 100 consecutive slashes. On the other hand, planet teleportation was easier to learn. After learning the last profound meaning, although Lin Jun still couldn't teleport the distance between two planets, it was no problem for him to teleport tens of thousands of kilometers away. In the end, it was still a factor of star power. These two moves were prepared for the masters of the nebula stage, especially the space/. Lin Jun's current star power level was more than 1,000, which was at most the strength of a level 3 nebula stage. Naturally, he couldn't exert its full power. Chapter 519. Everyone, listen to me. There must be a conclusion to our war with the Fire Qilin. The Mantis Commander stood in front of the crowd. Opposite him were the experts from the Lantis Empire and the Rakshasa Empire. Gennaro asked, "What does your war have to do with us? You don't want to get involved in the war between nations." "No, we don't want you to get involved in the war between nations. We just want you to help us kill someone." "Oh? Kill who? What's in it for us?" Lanka from the Lantis Empire asked. "You've seen who we want to kill. It's the two from Floating Island, Feng Qingwan and Lin Jun." The Mantis Commander said hatefully, "You've seen the potential of those two. Leaving them alive will only bring us endless trouble. Furthermore, we won't let you help us for free. Get rid of those two, and you'll get 5 billion cosmos crystals." Gennaro and Lanka looked at each other. They both felt that this matter was feasible. "The price is fine, but don't forget that the Fire Qilin Yi Hua and the others are here. If the Fire Qilin's people attack us from behind, won't we be attacked from both sides?" Gennaro asked. The Mantis Commander laughed. "You don't have to worry about that. The Fire Qilin's people won't affect us. We have a way to deal with them. So simple. Are they so easily fooled? Don't they know the importance of Feng Qingwan and Lin Jun? Are they just going to let us kill them?" Lanka asked a series of questions. "Of course it's not that simple. I can tell you that there are people in the Fire Qilin who don't want Feng Qingwan and the others to live. Therefore, this matter is something that everyone is happy to see happen. There won't be any mistakes." Gennaro and Lanka were relieved after hearing the Mantis Commander's promise. It turned out that this matter also involved the internal struggle of the Fire Qilin. It was much easier to handle. They only needed to kill people. The only trouble was that Feng Qingwan's combat power was a bit strong. How could they succeed? They had to plan well. They must not fail to kill people and be killed by Feng Qingwan instead. However, there was no need to worry about this. The 3 families were working together. No, it was 4 families working together. If they still couldn't come up with a foolproof plan, then they could just hang themselves. In the simulated reality field, a Nebula Level 5 virtual opponent was attacking Lin Jun fiercely. Lin Jun had been in the simulated reality arena for a long time, yet he had yet to defeat a Nebula Level 5 expert. His best performance had only been to defeat a Nebula Level 4 expert. A Level 5 Nebula had a star energy of more than 1,500 points. After a month of cultivation, Lin Jun's star energy was less than 1,100 points. The huge difference in strength made it impossible for him to defeat a Level 5 Nebula. But this time, Lin Jun's movements were very fast. When he dodged the opponent's attack, he seized the opportunity when the opponent paused for less than 0.1 seconds to immediately counterattack. Spatial slash. Over 100 crescent-shaped spatial slashes appeared, each of them about a meter long. All of them were fatal. This was the first time that Lin Jun had used the 100 consecutive strikes. With this move, space collapsed. Behind every spatial cut, a long space crack appeared. PFFF. The Nebula level 5 expert finally couldn't dodge Lin Jun's spatial slashes. His body was hit by several spatial slashes and was cut into pieces. Lin Jun left the simulated reality field, still gasping for breath instinctively. However, his face was filled with excitement. The spatial slash had finally succeeded. There was a difference of 600 to 700 star powers between the two of them, but they still couldn't block his space slash. The power of this move was indeed very strong, but if there was a flaw, it would be that it consumed too much star power. With his current star power level, if he couldn't defeat his opponent with his space slash, then he could only flee. But no matter what, Lin Jun had already created a miracle for a level 9 stellar level martialist to be able to defeat a level 5 nebula level expert. His realm was currently stuck at the peak of the level 9 stellar level. He couldn't advance any further. At this realm, neither the Thunder Crystal nor the Stellar Crystal could help him anymore. The next realm was the Black Hole realm. If he wanted to advance, he would need opportunities. It's been almost 12 months. I should leave the floating island. Otherwise, when the meteorite belt closes, I won't be able to leave even if I want to. Lin Jun opened his eyes. He had already comprehended all the contents of the boundary heavenly steel. There was no need to stay. When he opened his eyes, he saw that his surroundings were empty. The fiery red ball that he had imagined didn't appear. It seemed that it had already left. Lin Jun felt a little lost. He had some doubts about Feng Qingwan. Back then, Feng Qingwan had sent a huge wave of star energy. Not only had it helped Yihua, but it had also helped him. That was why he had been able to complete the comprehension before Yihua and obtain the first place. At that time, he had some doubts about Feng Qingwan's identity. However, now that Feng Qingwan had disappeared without a trace, Lin Jun felt that he had made a mistake. If she was the little phoenix, she wouldn't have left so quietly. She would have at least said goodbye to him. Now it seemed that he was wrong. She was not the little phoenix at all. She was the cold-blooded and ruthless gang leader. The star energy had helped him because he was a black hole beast. I don't know when I'll be able to come to the floating island again. I'm a little unwilling. Lin Jun raised his head and looked at the mental steel and time steel. Actually, the contents of these two steels were what Lin Jun was looking forward to the most. However, time was of the essence, and Lin Jun could not study all three at once. If there was still time, Lin Jun really wanted to stay and continue to comprehend. With a little regret, Lin Jun left the floating island. After leaving the floating island, he felt that the meteorite belt behind him had gradually begun to move faster. Looking back, a spatial storm was gradually forming in the meteorite belt. The storm, which contained all kinds of elemental powers and spatial cracks, could almost tear everything apart. It was no wonder that there were only broken meteorites in the surrounding 100 miles. There was not a single large piece of rock left. The storm was so dense that no matter who it was almost impossible for them to survive here safely. I guess the storm inside the floating island may not be as strong as outside. If possible, I really want to go back and have a look. Lin Jun hesitated for a moment. Looking at the endless space storm, he finally gave up this tempting idea. He'd better go fight as soon as possible and try to win first place in this concentration camp. But before that, Lin Jun had to go back to the garbage treatment plant first. He had to plant the parasol tree first. Maybe one day, when the little phoenix came back, she would have a place to stay. Looking at the starry sky in front of him, planet teleport. After a teleport, Lin Jun's body appeared 50,000 kilometers away. Lin Jun had completely mastered the planet teleport method. As long as his star energy gradually increased, he would be able to teleport directly from this planet to another planet in his field of vision one day. Whoosh! Whoosh! With unparalleled speed, Lin Jun disappeared into the starry sky. Just when the citizens of Fire Qilin believed that the Empire would suffer a crushing defeat in this battle, they did not expect that the Empire's martial artists would launch a wave of counterattacks in the chaotic Star River. In December, Yihua led a few Nebula Stage warriors to intercept a group of insectoids. They killed 4 Nebula Stage warriors and tens of thousands of Acripoid warriors. In January of the second year, Feng Qingwan broke into the Centipede Commander's nest alone. She used her upgraded Heavenly Fire to burn down the Centipede Commander's nest. Hundreds of thousands of warriors in the nest died, and the Centipede Commander escaped with heavy injuries. In February of the second year, Feng Qingwan attacked the Spider Commander's nest again. Because the Spider Commander was dead, without a leader, the Spider Warriors could not resist Feng Qingwan's attack. Hundreds of thousands of Spider Warriors were killed, and the Spider Commander's nest was destroyed. In March of the second year, Yihua teamed up with Nan Lai and fought against the Acripoid Commander. Although they did not kill the Acripoid Commander, they destroyed the Acripoid Commander's nest and killed hundreds of thousands of warriors. Their kill count rose sharply. However, they were no longer first or second place. The first place had been taken by Feng Qingwan. At this point, 3 of the 7 mother nests in the chaotic Star River had been lost. The ability to produce warriors was greatly reduced, and the Fire Kirin warriors did not have a hard time surviving. At the end of March of the second year, Lin Jun encountered the Centipede Commander who escaped on a planet. After an intense battle, Lin Jun actually killed the Centipede Commander. Not only did the insectoids lose 3 mother nests, they also lost 2 commanders. This series of battles allowed the Fire Kirin people to see the light of victory again, especially Feng Qingwan's outstanding battle record. Some people even said that the number 1 genius of the Empire should change. In the 4th month, Yihua informed the Fire Kirin warriors in the chaotic Star River that they would organize a great counterattack. The target of this counterattack would be the Scorpio Commander's nest. They had received news that the injured Acripoid Commander had fled to the Scorpio Commander's territory. As long as they could destroy the Scorpio Commander's nest, it was very possible that they could kill both the Scorpio Commander and the Acripoid Commander. If this goal could be achieved, then 4 of the 7 insect commanders would be eliminated and 4 mother nests would be destroyed. They would have won more than half of the war in the chaotic Star River. Yihua even announced this news in the dimensional universe. No matter which Fire Kirin warrior, they could not refuse such a proposal. Because once you refused, you would be cursed by the entire empire. No matter what kind of achievements you made, you would be firmly labeled as someone who did not care about the overall situation, and you would never be able to turn the tables. All the cultivators responded, including Feng Qingwan and Lin Jun. They all agreed to go to the planet where the Scorpio Commander's nest was in 10 days and have a big battle there. Chapter 520. There were 7 main planets surrounding the floating island. Although they were not very big planets, they were the largest in this fragmented astral river. The reason why the insectoids chose to build the mother nest on these 7 main planets was to maximize the reproduction and breeding of new insectoid warriors. Almost all of the surviving Fire Qilin warriors in the astral river had come. There were about 20,000 people in total. Among these 20,000 people, the weakest was at the peak of the stellar stage. When they first entered the astral river, many of them had advanced to the black hole stage, and hundreds of black hole stage warriors had been born. After 2 years of cultivation and fighting, everyone's progress was not small. Yihua was dressed in a green robe, floating in the air with a long sword on his back. He had the bearing of a young man in a green robe. Everyone unconsciously regarded Yihua as their leader. After all, he had been a number 1 genius of the Fire Qilin race for many years, and this time, he was the one who proposed to attack the Scorpio mother nest. Although some people followed behind their own leaders, such as Feng Qingwan's Qingwan Association, but overall, Yihua was still the biggest leader. He stood in the middle. On his left, Nan Lai led a group of warriors, and on his right was Tianxi. Tianxi's progress in these 2 years was not small. Although he did not gain anything on the floating island, his realm had really improved. He had already reached the stellar level 4, and no one knew what kind of fortuitous encounter he had. In addition to them, the most conspicuous was the Qinghuan Association's female army. Feng Qinghuan was dressed in a pink dress, and behind her were hundreds of women who had at least reached the black hole stage. She was the most beautiful scenery in the crowd. Obtaining the first place on the spiritual power divine steel on the floating island made Feng Qinghuan's spiritual power breakthrough and successfully advanced to the Jade Ray stage, becoming the number 1 person present. The invisible spiritual power pressure she emitted added to her charm, but also made people more afraid to approach her. Those who approached her could not help but feel ashamed of their inferiority. Lin Zhen stood at the edge of the crowd, not far from the Qinghuan Association. Looking at the fiery red ball in front of him, he could not help but miss his little phoenix. Everyone, Yihua came to the front of the crowd and spoke in a clear voice. The war in the Astral River has been going on for nearly 2 years, and it's almost time ended. Everyone here is an elite, and we also know that the insectoids can continuously reproduce new insectoid warriors. The more time passes, the more disadvantageous it is for us. Only by destroying their mother nest can we guarantee our final victory. Chapter 521. With the appearance of the 5 insectoid commanders, the situation immediately changed. Among the insectoid warriors that had just been killed by the Fire Qilin warriors, the weaker ones hid themselves and were replaced by a large number of elite insectoid warriors. Hordes of black hole stage insectoids appeared. Mantis warriors wielding twin blades, beetle warriors wearing thick armor, bumblebee warriors, and Scorpio warriors wielding poison spears, densely covering the sky and earth, extending to the end of one's line of sight. Among them, galactic stage warriors could be seen everywhere as commanders, leading groups of warriors, ready to charge at any time. How is this an ordinary insectoid? This was clearly the main force of the insectoid race. Normally, these insectoids could hide underground, but the entire Scorpio broodmother was a huge trap. They had already prepared everything and were just waiting for the Fire Qilin warriors to come and die. Ha ha ha! The Mantis commander laughed loudly in the air. Foolish humans, don't you usually laugh at us insectoids for having low intelligence? How did you all fall into our encirclement today? How is it? Did the insectoids with low intelligence in your eyes give you a huge surprise? I'm afraid you won't be able to bear this surprise. The beetle commander was clad in black armor, revealing only his eyes. At this moment, his sinister gaze swept across the group of Fire Qilin's martialists. From now on, you don't have to laugh at our insect race anymore, because you won't have the chance to do so again. This Scorpio star will be your burial ground. The Fire Qilin warriors were somewhat panicked. They began to involuntarily gather around Yihua, wanting to find a backbone, someone to rely on. How can this be? Didn't they say that the insectoid commanders didn't get along and wouldn't work together? That's right. Didn't they say that the insectoids were resisting the attacks of Atlantis and Rakshasa empires? How can all their main forces appear on our side? Yihua, what do we do now? You have to think of an idea. Yihua's expression was cold as he bit his lips and said, "We've been tricked. Everything is a smokescreen released by the insectoids. But don't worry, their fighting strength is not as good as ours. We've already killed 2 of their commanders. As long as we can kill their leader, we will still win this battle." After speaking, Yihua turned to look at Feng Qinghuan, Namlai, Tianxi, and Lin Zhen. This time, it's a matter of life and death. I suggest that on our side, me, Qinghuan, Tianxi, Namlai, Lin Zhen, each block an insectoid commander. The rest will be dealt with by the others. The 5 of us are the key of the battle. As long as we win, it will be useless no matter how many warriors they have. Although Lin Zhen's realm wasn't high, he had already proven his strength on Levitating Island. Later on, he had even killed the Centipede commander. He could already be considered a first-rate expert, and Yihua wouldn't let him go. Yes, Namlai asked, "If we lose, then life and death will be up to fate." Everyone looked at the 5 insectoid commanders. Yihua's words were reasonable. If they fought a war of attrition, they would be courting death. Only by killing the leader would they have a chance of survival. Yihua took the lead and said, I'm the one who suggested this. I should take the most important responsibility. Leave the Mantis Commander to me. You can choose the others. I choose the Locust Commander. Among the 5 commanders, the Locust Commander was the weakest. Tianzi hurriedly made his choice, ignoring the others' disdainful looks. Then I choose the Beetle Commander. Nanlai also made his choice. The Beetle Commander's strength was only slightly stronger than the Locust's. It was not comparable to Scorpio or Bumblebee. I choose the Scorpio Commander. Lin Jun did not wait for Feng Qingwan to speak and immediately chose the strongest Scorpio. He had a feeling that it would be easier for Feng Qingwan to deal with the flying Bumblebee Commander. Feng Qingwan's cherry lips slightly moved. She did not look at Lin Jun and did not say anything, indicating that she had agreed. Since everyone has made their choice, I'll whisper something to you. Yihua lowered his voice and said, Everyone, I have a lot of responsibility for the mistakes in this battle. However, we are all elites of the Empire, so no matter what, we cannot fall in battle. If there is a chance to break out of this encirclement, then everyone should run for their lives. There is no possibility of winning this battle, so no matter who leaves, I will not blame them. After saying that, Yihua raised the sword in his hand and pointed it at the Mantis Commander in the sky. Mantis, come. Let's fight with real swords and spears. Do you dare or not? Mantis heard Yihua's challenge and immediately revealed a sinister expression. Jia. Yihua, stinking brat, don't think that you can challenge me just because you have a little talent. Today, I will let you know how strong the Mantis race is as the strongest race in the insectoid empire. Get out of my way. No one is allowed to interfere. The surrounding insectoids moved aside to make a path. The Mantis Commander waved the 2 sharp blades in his hand and rushed towards Yihua. Yihua also leapt up, brandishing the long sword in his hand as he clashed with the Mantis Commander. The 2 people fought from the ground to the sky, from the sky to the ground, and from the ground to the space. Gradually, they were submerged in the endless insectoid tide and could no longer be seen. With Yihua taking the lead, Nanlai and Tianzi also separately challenged their respective commanders, and very quickly, the great battle began. Feng Qingwan turned her head and looked at her sisters from Qingwan Association. Her tone was a little heavy. Sisters, when the battle begins, remember to break out in the opposite direction from me. You should be able to leave this place. The only thing you must remember is that you must not follow behind me. That way, you'll have a chance to live. Once you break out, immediately return to the light tunnel and leave the chaotic Star River. The battle here is over. Lan Yu, Feng Hong, and the other girls were stunned. Boss, what about you? Are you not going to leave with us? Feng Qingwan shook her head and chuckled. I'm afraid not. If we go together, no one will be able to leave. No, boss. We can't leave you alone. The girls from Qingwan Association were about to cry. Don't cry. Feng Qingwan's face suddenly became cold. The girls didn't dare to cry because of the long accumulation of power. They could only hold the tears in their eyes. Qingwan Association still has a foundation to take care of. When you go back, tell my master to help take care of it. I'm not discussing with you. This is an order. After saying that, Feng Qingwan let out a deep breath. There are some things that I have to experience. I can't escape. You all go. Maybe there will be a chance to meet again in the future. Lan Yu and the other girls knew that Feng Qingwan had made up her mind and didn't dare to disobey. They could only look at her with tears in their eyes and slowly retreat. Seeing that the insectoids were about to attack, Feng Qingwan suddenly turned her head and looked at Lin Jun. The enemy is about to attack. Don't you want to fight with me? I'm with you. Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand what Feng Qingwan meant. Seeing Lin Jun's stunned look, Feng Qingwan finally couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. This laugh was like 100 flowers blooming at the same time. It made the world lose its color. Not only Lin Jun was stunned, even the girls of Qingwan Association were stunned. They had followed Feng Qingwan for many years, but they had never seen Feng Qingwan smile. Even if she smiled, it was just a sneer or a perfunctory smile. This kind of heartfelt smile was absolutely the first time since the beginning of the world. They didn't expect Feng Qingwan to be so beautiful when she smiled. No wonder when she just came to Qilin Holy Star, she would get the title of the first beauty of Fire Qilin. Maybe after getting this title, Feng Qingwan no longer showed a sincere smile. Yes, if you don't accompany me, are you willing to let me go alone? Lin Zhen's heart suddenly throbbed. This was definitely not the performance that Feng Qingwan should have. She said this, could it be she was? You are? Lin Zhen was a little surprised. Feng Qingwan walked slowly to the front of Lin Zhen, raised her slender finger, and gently touched the cinnabar mole between her eyebrows. When you see this, don't you feel familiar? When Lin Zhen heard Feng Qingwan say this, he suddenly woke up. He raised his hand, and a teardrop-like ruby appeared in the palm of his hand. The gem was blood red, as if it was dyed with blood. No matter the size and shape, it was exactly the same as the cinnabar mole between Feng Qingwan's eyebrows. Are you really? Lin Zhen widened his eyes in surprise. Phoenix tears blood, in fact, is the tears of Phoenix. My tears fell on your palm, but unfortunately, you have never studied it carefully, right? I left this thing for you in vain. Feng Qingwan's tone had a trace of blame, and her temperament seemed to have changed a lot in an instant. This is a teardrop from you? Lin Zhen was stunned for a moment. Was there any mystery in this tear? He had kept this ruby without looking at it before, because he was afraid that he would think of her when he saw it. At this time, he wanted to see what was inside. Feng Qingwan grabbed him. It's too late now. If we win, then you have plenty of time to look at it. Now you don't have to. Lin Zhen nodded and put away the ruby condensed from Phoenix Tear's blood. We will win. I hope so, Lin Zhen. Come and fight with me. Of course, I will accompany you. If I knew that you were a little phoenix, I would have, alas. Feng Qingwan covered her mouth and smiled. She looked at Lin Zhen with her charming eyes. What should you call me? Lin Zhen was stunned for a moment, and then said with a little embarrassment, I thought you were a little phoenix, so what? Now that you know who I am, you don't dare to call me that? Feng Qingwan asked. What's there to be afraid of? Lin Zhen straightened his body. No matter who you are, we are already connected by blood. You have long been connected to my bloodline. You are my little treasure. Feng Qingwan gently pressed a finger on Lin Zhen's lips. Enough. Keep this name in your heart, and never give it to anyone else. After that, she took back her finger and looked at Lin Zhen with a smile. I have experienced a relationship, right? What do you mean? Lin Zhen didn't understand. Don't ask too much. Lin Zhen, remember to live. After that, Feng Qingwan suddenly waved the 3-meter-long machete in her hand and cut a nebulous stage zerg that tried to sneak attack in half. Lin Zhen, come and fight side by side. Chapter 5:22. Seeing Feng Qingwan rushing out, Lin Zhen raised his hand and the yin-yang spear appeared in his hand. At the same time, his doppelganger also took out the edged spear. He and his doppelganger followed closely behind Feng Qingwan. It was fine if he didn't know that she was a little phoenix, but once he knew, he would see her in a different light. Sure enough, she was the little phoenix that was connected to him by blood. No matter how he looked at her, she was pleasing to the eye. Her slim figure wielding a huge saber and slashing through the swarm of zergs. Such a scene had a different kind of beauty in Lin Zhen's eyes. Following Feng Qingwan, Lin Zhen's target was the Scorpion Commander. The Scorpion Commander and Bumblebee Commander seemed to have been waiting for the two's arrival. As soon as the two approached, they greeted them. In the hands of the Scorpion Commander were two huge sabers transformed from pincers. Not only were they powerful, but they also had a strong defensive power. Behind him, there was a poisonous needle that shone with cold light. That was transformed from a tail, floating in the air, waiting for an opportunity to strike. It could be said that the Scorpion Commander was the person with the strongest weapon. As soon as Lin Zhen's doppelganger came into contact with him, they immediately fell into a bitter battle. On the other hand, Feng Qingwan was not idle. The Bumblebee Commander had a blue spear in his hand. The spear's body was filled with poison, and its speed in the air was extremely fast. Even if Feng Qingwan's strength was above his, It was impossible for her to defeat him in a short time. At this time, the 5 commanders had their own opponents, and the remaining Fire Qilin martial artists were trapped in the endless sea of Zergs. Under the command of Feng Qingluan, the women of Qing Luan Association charged in the opposite direction of Feng Qingluan. Beside them, there were all kinds of Zergs that blotted out the sky. Each of them had to face dozens or even hundreds of Zergs at the same time. Compared to them, the martial artists in other places were even worse. The number of Zergs was really too much. In order to plan this ambush, the insectoids had been preparing for a long time. They had mobilized all the elites of the Mother Nests. When the Fire Qilin's people arrived, the surrounding starry sky was covered by the insectoids. The insectoids continued to advance. Every time the Fire Qilin's warriors were killed, there would be dozens or hundreds of warriors to replace them. This kind of despair was chilling. On the Fire Qilin martial artist kill list, everyone's kill numbers were jumping up and down like a water meter that had gone out of control. The numbers kept jumping up. However, when some people jumped too fast, it was as if the water meter was broken, and they stopped abruptly. An early-stage Nebula martialist, who had mastered the frost control technique to the point of perfection, sent out a blast of frost chi and froze a dozen bumblebee warriors into ice sculptures. But before he could catch his breath, a few ferocious beetle warriors had already raised their swords and slashed at him. Their weapons clashed, and their bodies staggered back. As they retreated, they shot out another ball of freezing air, killing the beetle warriors. 2 sky scorpion warriors swept past like lightning, and 2 poisonous needles pierced his back. With a scream, he turned around and killed the 2 sky scorpion warriors. A few mantis warriors in front of him swung their machetes and took away one of his arms. He waved his sword with one arm and barely managed to kill these mantis warriors. Before he could send out another blast of freezing air, hundreds of insectoids swarmed over, and this Nebula martialist died tragically in the chaos. This kind of scene didn't happen alone. It happened all the time. The Nebula martialists were still fine, but the stellar and black hole martialists couldn't even exchange one life for many. The huge army of insectoid warriors was like a whirlpool, reducing and eliminating the Fire Qilin's warriors. Inside the Fire Qilin Empire, people were watching all this in fear. Some warriors had turned on a live broadcast, broadcasting this battle in the dimensional universe. However, there was no outsider in this battle. Everyone participated in it. Often, a martial artist live broadcast would end halfway through, and the person would die. After watching countless of such videos, people chose to watch the total number of people on the kill list. The total number of people on the list had decreased by half, and it was still decreasing rapidly. There are only 10,000 people left. 9,000. God, this can't be real. Are the elites of the Empire going to be wiped out here? 8,500. No, it's 8,000. It's over, it's over. There's no hope at all. I can only pray now. Pray that Yihua can safely withdraw from that hellish place. Why do we have to fight for that godforsaken place in the chaotic Star River? Whoever wants it can have it. As long as we can guard the light corridor, it's enough. Feng Qingluan, my goddess, please don't let anything happen to her. 7,500. I can't see any hope at all. Other than looking at the kill list, people were terrified. Occasionally, they would see the insects blotting out the sky on some live broadcast. They couldn't see any hope of victory. An army formed by the elites of several mother nests was indeed not something the Fire Qilin warriors could resist. The only thing worth rejoicing over was that the few Fire Qilin elites who were ranked at the top were still alive. No, a blade flashed past, and Nanlai's head flew into the air. It was his last instinct to survive that made him turn around to see who killed him. His head turned around in the air, and he saw the Mantis commander. The Mantis blade in his hand was still stained with his own blood. Nanlai's last thought wasn't the Mantis commander fighting with Yihua? Why did he come back to kill him now? Could it be that Yihua was killed? Unfortunately, he couldn't get any answers. After that, he fell into endless darkness. As the top 3 of the Fire Qilin Empire, Nanlai died in battle. This was the prelude to the collapse of the Fire Qilin people. An avalanche-like defeat appeared just like that. Many warriors didn't even have time to escape and were swallowed by the insect warriors. Only the female warriors of Qing Luan Association were prepared. They didn't fight at the beginning of the battle. Instead, they flew in the opposite direction of Feng Qingluan. After charging for a while, they were pleasantly surprised to find that there were very few insect warriors around them. It seemed that those insect warriors were mostly in the direction of Feng Qingluan and Linjun. Looking from afar, it was a huge mass that connected heaven and earth. There were insect warriors everywhere. They didn't dare to stay any longer. They could only follow Feng Qingluan's instructions. After running for a while and seeing that there were no more insect warriors chasing after them, they drove the ship towards the direction of the light tunnel. As long as they entered the light tunnel, they would be safe. After boarding the ship, all the girls looked at the battlefield with tears in their eyes. They couldn't help but cry out loud. In such a situation, no one thought that Feng Qingluan had any hope of surviving. As the ship went further and further, they could only check the situation of the Fire Qilin warriors through the killing list of the dimensional universe. 20,000 Fire Qilin warriors, there were less than 2,000 left. Among them, there were about 500 female warriors of Qing Luan Association. Feng Qingluan's clothes were fluttering in the wind. The machete in her hand turned into lightning, and her speed was getting faster and faster. Amidst the lightning, Bumblebee Commander couldn't hold on any longer. Feng Qingluan had already advanced to level 8 Nebula and mastered the Emerald Ray spiritual power. She was already the strongest person in the Chaotic Star River. Even if Bumblebee Commander tried his best to resist, he still couldn't stop Feng Qingluan's attacks. In fact, if it weren't for the help of many Nebula Stage subordinates, he would have died under Feng Qingluan's machete. Although there were many people restraining Feng Qingluan, there were more than 20 Nebula Stage experts who had fallen under the machete. Even so, it couldn't stop Bumblebee Commander from losing. On the other side, Lin Zhan's original body and doppelganger worked together to suppress Scorpio Commander. However, there were many other insect warriors around. Lin Zhan couldn't end the battle for the time being. Instead, the situation was a little dangerous. Feng Qingluan glanced at Lin Zhan and sped up. Ka ka ka. She slashed 3 times in the air, and the space cracked. It was like the earth had cracked open, unstoppable. A few insect warriors were killed by Feng Qingluan's machete. With the obstacles removed, she turned into a ray of red light and went straight for Bumblebee Commander. Bumblebee Commander retreated in fear. His advantage was speed. Bumblebee's flying speed was very fast, but Feng Qingluan was faster. Because she was the king of flying galactic beasts, the Phoenix. She caught up with the Bumblebee Commander in an instant. The Bumblebee Commander was about to make a turn when she sent out a psychic attack. The Zergs had strong psychic resistance, but in the face of Feng Qingluan's Emerald Light level psychic power, the Bumblebee Commander stopped in midair. A tenth of a second was more than enough. The machete flashed, and Bumblebee Commander died on the spot. At this point in the battle, Feng Qingluan used her super strength to kill a Bug Commander under the siege of countless Nebula Stage experts. This was also the second Bug Commander she had killed. After killing Bumblebee, Feng Qingluan's chest rose and fell rapidly. The battle just now had consumed too much of her energy. At this time, looking at the surroundings again, there were almost no signs of the Fire Qilin martial artists. There were insects everywhere, swarming over from all directions, seemingly endless. Feng Qingluan didn't care about anything else and went straight for Lin Zhan. Just as she got close to Lin Zhan, a few figures rushed over like lightning. The Mantis Commander, Beetle Commander, and Locust Commander, these insectoid commanders that were supposed to be fighting Yi Hua and the others, had all come over. Adding on the Scorpion Commander that was fighting Lin Zhan, the 4 great insectoid commanders had already surrounded the 2 of them. F*CK off. Seeing that Lin Zhan was in danger, Feng Qingluan didn't care about her energy consumption. She raised her hand, and a green flame whizzed out, turning 5 or 6 Nebula Stage experts who wanted to block her way into ashes. Chapter 523. Lin Jun's eyes were bloodshot as he continuously shot down 2 level 3 galactic warriors. Just as he was about to rush over and kill the Scorpion Commander, Feng Qingwan came over. There was a delicate fragrance on her body, a fragrance that belonged to a phoenix. Lin Jun had felt it more than once when he was with the little phoenix. Today, he felt it again, and it calmed his boiling heart a little. Lin Jun, we can't fight anymore. Let's break out of here. A soft hand pulled Lin Jun's hand and flew out quickly. Only then did Lin Jun realize that the two of them were the only ones who were still fighting. That's right, there were more than 20,000 Fire Qilin warriors, and only the two of them were still fighting. The Dimensional Universe's kill list had been recorded very clearly. Currently, there were a total of 504 people who were still alive. Among them, 500 were female warriors of Feng Qingwan's Qingwan Association. They withdrew from the battle at the beginning, and the Zerg's target wasn't them, so they were able to leave safely. As for the remaining 4 people besides Lin Jun and Feng Qingwan, only Yi Hua and Tianxi were left. Nanlai was dead. Everyone Lin Jun had met on Levitating Island was dead. Not a single one remained. On the killing list, Feng Qingwan was first, followed by Yi Hua in second, and Tianxi in third. Although Lin Jun didn't kill many Zergs, he didn't stay idle for the past few months. In addition to Nanlai's death, his current ranking was 4th, and the gap between him and Yi Hua and Tianxi wasn't big. Ranked 5th was actually Qing Luan Association's Lan Yuer. She didn't kill many Zergs, but she was still ranked 5th. It could be seen how tragic this battle was, especially when Lin Jun saw the Mantis Commander and the others rushing over. He knew that there must be a problem. Yi Hua and the others might have escaped. Otherwise, why would their opponents come here if they were still alive? No matter how strong he and Feng Qingwan were, it was impossible for them to fight against the endless Zerg army. The only way was to escape. Run! Feng Qingwan pulled Lin Jun and flew all the way. The machete in her hand turned into layers of machetes, and within a radius of 100 meters, no matter who dared to get close, they would be cut in half by her machete. The Mantis Commander and the others followed in the air, constantly increasing the pressure on Feng Qingwan and Tianxi. Hee, Qingwan, little beauty, don't make a final struggle. Only the two of you are left in the entire Fire Qilin's warrior team. My bug army is everywhere. Where can the two of you escape to? Feng Qingwan didn't even look back. She just coldly said, cut the crap. If you don't accept it, come down and fight. Of course we have to fight, but not here. If we fight on the bed, I won't stop even if we fight for 300 years. But here, I'll let my men wear down the courage of you and that brat. The Mantis Commander and the others were not in a hurry to fight with Feng Qingwan and Lin Jun immediately. They knew how dangerous these two people were. If they rashly went down, not only they might not be able to kill them, they might even be killed by these two people. Anyway, they were not in a hurry. They looked like they had the victory in their hands and followed in the sky. Feng Qingwan and Lin Jun had already left the ground and went straight to the starry sky. The surrounding hundreds of meters, thousands of meters, tens of thousands of meters, as far as the eyes could see, were still densely packed with Zergs. They were chasing and intercepting. Feng Qingwan was in the front, blocking most of the pressure. Lin Jun was at the back to prevent others from sneaking up on him. Looking at the little beauty in front of him biting her lips and desperately rushing to kill, Lin Jun's heart was filled with a long-lost emotion. This was Qingwan, the first beauty among hundreds of millions of people in the Fire Kirin Empire. She was also a gang leader, a female devil who never blinked her eyes when killing people. Because of this matter, Lin Jun once rejected Feng Qingwan. He felt that as a woman, what she did was a bit too much. But now that she thought about it, as a woman, to be able to rise up in the underworld, she must have endured more things than a man. If she didn't do this, she might have been bitten to the bone long ago. This was the little phoenix, the proud, indifferent, warm, and lovely little divine bird. It was the little baby that was connected with his blood and was inseparable. Although Lin Jun also thought that it was somewhat inappropriate to use the nickname Little Baby on a decisive woman like Feng Qingwan, But after getting along with each other for several months, Lin Jun was somewhat used to it. This feeling had only appeared on a Ning and Yu air in the past. Now, there was another one. Fresh blood flew in the air, broken limbs swayed in front of her eyes, and swords flashed past her body. This scene was enough to make many men break down, but Qingwan was used to it and didn't care at all. One of her hands kept waving the big machete, and in just a short while, she had already killed at least 100,000 zergs. Lin Jun could feel that Qingwan was very tired. "Feng Qingwan, you've been arrogant for long enough. Stay here." The Locust commander descended from the sky, and under the cover of a dozen Nebula stage zergs, rushed forward brazenly. Feng Qingwan's long machete danced, and in the continuous sound of collision, the Nebula stage zergs fell to the ground one after another. The Locust commander's machete slashed across her shoulder, making her groan. The attack wasn't particularly heavy, but it was very skillful. It just so happened that Feng Qingwan's right hand couldn't continue to wield the machete. Feng Qingwan could use the machete with her left hand, but she didn't let go. Instead, she continued to hold on to Lin Jun, not wanting to let go of Lin Jun's hand. Lin Jun couldn't stand it anymore. He reached out and grabbed Feng Qingwan's slender waist. "Qingwan, you're crazy. Get on my back. I'll carry you for the rest of the journey." Feng Qingwan's body went weak. She couldn't remember how many zergs she had killed, but she was really tired and needed a rest. Lin Jun's broad back was just right for her to lean on. Her lithe body leaned on Lin Jun's back, her snow-white face leaning on Lin Jun's shoulder. Her long hair cascaded down Lin Jun's chest like a waterfall. Lin Jun glanced sideways and could see her bright eyes, as well as the blood-red mole between her eyebrows. "You don't have to move anymore. I'll carry you for the rest of the journey." Lin Jun carried her on his back while his doppelganger covered the rear. Both of them turned into armor at the same time. After the armor transformation, Lin Jun's black hole beast bloodline became more prominent. His body became more majestic and strong, making the woman on his back look even more petite. The Locust commander rushed forward again. Lin Jun shook the yin-yang spear in his hand. Phantom Strike. This was an indomitable spear. Lin Jun no longer had any way of retreat. No matter who stood in his way, he would crush them to smithereens. The Locust commander, who was a level 5 nebula, could not withstand Lin Jun's strike. Its shoulder was pierced through. It screamed and tried to retreat, but Lin Jun's gravitational force exploded and pulled the Locust commander back. 3 consecutive spatial slashes made it lose its balance. Lin Jun's spear pierced its back again. A level 2 nebula had sacrificed himself to block Lin Jun's strike, allowing the Locust commander to escape. But it still could not escape. When Lin Jun passed by it, Feng Qingwan, who was behind Lin Jun, swung her sword and killed the Locust commander. Seeing that Lin Jun and Feng Qingwan had killed the Locust commander, the Mantis commander's face darkened. *M in it. He didn't listen to my orders and went down to provoke them. He deserved to die. You two, don't act rashly. Killing them is only a matter of time. Don't cause any more unnecessary losses and injuries." The Scorpio commander and the Beetle commander nodded in agreement. The 3 commanders continued to follow from afar. "Lin Jun, do you think I'm strong?" Feng Qingwan was exhausted. Her body was shaking violently, but she still looked at Lin Jun with a smile. Her eyes seemed to be looking into Lin Jun's heart, imprinting him in her memory forever. Lin Jun's heart skipped a beat. He forced a smile. "Of course Qingwan is strong. You're the leader of a gang. You're the strongest woman." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A few zergs blocked their way. Lin Jun's spear was like lightning, killing them mercilessly. A few zergs followed behind. The clone took a few hits in the battle, but it did not care. It killed the pursuers. Feng Qingwan's groan fell into Lin Jun's ears. His heart skipped a beat. "Qingwan, you're injured?" Lin Jun felt that Feng Qingwan's face was getting paler and paler. He knew that something was wrong. Behind her, a hand gently held her perky butt. He felt that there was blood flowing down from her back. But at this moment, there was no way to treat her injury. Feng Qingwan shook her head slightly and leaned her head on Lin Jun's cheek. Lin Jun, we can't escape. No, we will definitely be able to escape. This is definitely not our last stop. But I may not be able to make it. Today may be my end. No, absolutely not. Qingwan, pull yourself together. I'll take you to the garbage disposal. Do you still remember that small planet? We found Lung Shi on that small planet. I planted a parasol tree there especially for you. You're a phoenix. As long as you get on the parasol tree, you can get good treatment. Hang in there. Parasol tree. Feng Qingwan's dim eyes suddenly lit up. She looked at Lin Jun's side profile. I want to see it. Can you take me there? Okay, let's go now. Thousands of Zerg soldiers formed a dense sea of Zerg soldiers. Under the command of the commander, they blocked their way. Lin Jun gritted his teeth. With a thought, his avatar rushed out. Roar! The avatar twisted in the air and turned into a huge fire Qilin. It launched its strongest attack at the endless sea of Zerg. Natural Devour. Now that Lin Jun was at the peak of level 9 stellar level, his avatar was comparable to the nebulous stage. Everyone below his level, even those at the same level as him, could not dodge this attack. With one Natural Devour, a large part of the Sea of Zerg was instantly cleared out. Tens of thousands of Zerg soldiers were killed just like that. As the avatar could not dodge the attacks with its Natural Devour, it was instantly attacked by countless attacks. It was severely injured on the spot, and Lin Jun kept it in the Dark Star space. Taking advantage of the vacuum created by sacrificing his avatar, Lin Jun accelerated with Feng Qingwan and rushed out. Chapter 524. What? What is that? When Mantis Commander and the other two saw Lin Jun's earth-shattering move, they were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. At that moment, they saw the super-galactic beast Fire Qilin. Lin Jun actually had the talent of a Fire Qilin. This was simply beyond their expectations. But the more this was the case, the more they could not let Lin Jun leave. It was likely that even the Fire Qilin Empire did not know that Lin Jun had such a talent. Otherwise, he would be protected as a national treasure. Chase, we have to kill Lin Jun no matter what. We must not let him escape. If this guy returns to the Fire Qilin Empire, we will all be in big trouble. When he grows up in the future, he will definitely come back for revenge. The few Bug Tribe commanders realized the severity of the situation and continued to chase after Lin Jun in a frenzy. However, the formation they had just set up was broken by Lin Jun's Nature Devour. For the time being, they could no longer surround and intercept Lin Jun. It was still difficult to catch up with him. Mantis Commander immediately connected to the dimensional universe. Attention! Attention! Lin Jun is now fleeing in the northwest direction. The coordinates should be towards the garbage treatment plant. Remember to intercept him there. It's time for you to make a move. After saying that, the Mantis Commander hung up the communication from the dimensional universe and said confidently, "Don't worry, Lin Jun and the others won't be able to escape." When they took the two first places on the floating island, I knew it wouldn't be easy to take them down. I've already made all the necessary preparations. Beetle Commander and Scorpio Commander both trusted Mantis Commander very much and had full confidence in his arrangements. Although Lin Jun and Feng Qingwan seemed to be escaping now. But if Mantis said that they couldn't escape, then they definitely couldn't escape. Lin Jun had already used the fastest speed he had ever used in his life. The thunder wings behind him trembled. After 2 years of nourishment, the thunder wings had reached 500 times the speed of sound. Lin Jun's body turned into a stream of light as he shuttled through space, leaving the Zerg army behind him far behind. Feng Qingwan's arms held Lin Jun's neck tightly. She was in a semi-coma. "Qingwan, wake up. We'll be there soon. We'll be at the garbage treatment plant soon." "Yes, I will persist." Feng Qingwan, who was seriously injured, was no longer brave and strong as before. She leaned on Lin Jun's back softly, like a leaf that could be blown away by the wind at any time, which made Lin Jun hold her more tightly and never allow her to leave. In the process of flying, Lin Jun discovered that his speed was actually getting faster and faster. Within his body, a surge of bloodline power was surging. It was the bloodline power of Feng Qingwan. When Lin Jun saved Little Phoenix, he had absorbed a little of Feng Qinghuan's bloodline power, but the amount was relatively small. Lin Jun did not awaken any power in his body. Today, Feng Qinghuan was lying on Lin Jun's back. Their clothes were wet with blood, and their blood mixed together, which stimulated the bloodline power in Lin Jun's body. This power made Lin Jun's speed faster and faster. The Phoenix was originally the fastest galactic beast, and its speed kept increasing. Finally, it reached a speed of 1,000 times the speed of sound. Everything around him flew past with a buzzing sound. Countless asteroids and meteorites were left behind by Lin Jun in an instant. The space here was very dilapidated, and it was difficult for spaceships to expand. Because of this, Lin Jun was not caught by the Zerg. Otherwise, if everyone was driving spaceships, they would lose their speed advantage. No one knew how long they had been flying like this. There was no concept of time in the space. Maybe 1 day, maybe 3 days, maybe 10 days. During this period, Feng Qinghuan fainted countless times and was awakened by Lin Jun countless times. Only the parasol tree could stimulate Feng Qinghuan's desire to survive. Finally, the garbage treatment plant appeared. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Jun's body turned rapidly. After passing through many small planets, he finally arrived at the planet where he and Feng Qinghuan were looking for the cold stone. Qinghuan, we are here. Lin Jun retracted his lightning wings and landed on the ground. He staggered a few steps. The long flight made his legs numb. Fortunately, he did not fall. He gently put Feng Qinghuan down and carried her in his arms. Lin Jun came to the parasol tree he planted. This parasol tree had been planted for 3 months. It was nourished in Lin Jun's dark star space for nearly half a month. It grew luxuriantly. Although it was not as big as the starfruit tree, it was still dozens of meters tall. When the wind blew, the leaves rustled. It was very beautiful. Carry me up. Feng Qinghuan snuggled in Lin Jun's arms and said. Lin Jun immediately jumped and landed on the top of the parasol tree. Sitting there, hidden in the shade of the tree, he felt much calmer. How is it, Qinghuan? Do you feel more comfortable here? I like it here. Lin Jun, you must have spent a lot of effort to get this tree here. It's nothing. It's just that the delivery guy sent it here. Feng Qinghuan gently rolled her eyes at Lin Jun. There was no color on her face, but she was still very beautiful. Her beauty was soul-stirring, which made Lin Jun feel even more uncomfortable. Qinghuan, don't talk. Let me take a look at your injuries. We are connected by blood. I will definitely be able to cure you. It's too late. Feng Qinghuan gently raised her hand to stop Lin Jun's treatment. Our pursuers have always been behind us. Although you have temporarily shaken them off, you have never disappeared from their sight. At most half an hour, they will catch up. It's too late to treat you. No, I don't believe it. Qinghuan, I will definitely cure you. You have to believe me. Lin Jun was ready to open the dark star space to Feng Qinghuan. He wanted to send Feng Qinghuan into the dark star space. At most, he would transplant the parasol tree back. At least it would be safer in the dark star space. The dark star was Lin Jun's biggest secret besides his rebirth. He didn't tell anyone. But today, he was ready to make an exception. As long as he could save Qinghuan, he was willing to pay any price. Unexpectedly, Feng Qinghuan gently held Lin Jun's face with both hands. Do you think you can escape by yourself? Lin Jun was stunned for a moment. Now that his clone was seriously injured, he couldn't use it temporarily. When the pursuers came, it was impossible for him to escape alone. If he couldn't escape, what was the use of Feng Qinghuan hiding in the dark star space? For the first time, Lin Jun felt that he was so powerless. In the face of danger, in the face of the injured little phoenix, he was actually helpless. Lin Jun, help me make a leaf garland for me to wear, okay? Lin Jun was silent. He raised his hand and took some leaves of the parasol tree. Soon, he weaved a small garland and put it on Feng Qinghuan's head. The emerald green garland on her head made her little face even paler, like a flower that could wither at any time. I remember, when I was very young, my mother once made me one like this. Later, my mother left. That was the only warmth in my memory. Lin Jun wanted to say something, but Feng Qingwan gently raised her hand to stop him. Don't comfort me, okay? I never need these. If I was so weak, I might have been hacked to death on the street. You wouldn't have seen little Phoenix today. Lin Jun, I still remember that we met at the city gate of Qilin's sacred planet. At that time, I saw disgust in your eyes. I felt very uncomfortable at that time. I don't know why, but I don't want to be hated by you. I didn't want to. Lin Jun still wanted to comfort her. Don't lie. I can tell if a person is lying or not. Lin Jun, the reason why I killed the people from the Scarlet Fox gang back then was because they persecuted women. They bought female slaves and sold them to brothels for them to entertain customers. In their hands, even keeping a woman alive is a luxury. Tell me, should I have killed them? Lin Jun just remembered the situation at the city gate. Indeed, the martial artist of Red Fox said that the people of Green Phoenix Association killed more than 6,000 of their brothers and took away hundreds of thousands of female slaves. That place seemed to be called something like Red Tower. Thinking about it carefully, it should be the kind of place that Feng Qingwan said. Lin Jun was a little ashamed. He wronged Feng Qingwan, but he didn't expect Feng Qingwan to remember these small things. The Sisters of our Green Wan Association are all people who have a hard life. If I don't take them in, they will only have a dead end. We fight, we snatch, we have no choice. Lin Jun, I'm not a bad person. I have never done anything bad. Do you know that? Feng Qingwan's weak little hand tightly grabbed Lin Jun's lapel. She said to Lin Jun anxiously, as if she didn't say these words now, she wouldn't have a chance to say it in the future. Luan I believe you. I believe you. Don't be agitated. Seeing Feng Qingwan's excited little face flushed, Lin Jun hurriedly comforted her. Feng Qingwan leaned on Lin Jun's chest softly. She gasped for breath for a while, then she calmed down a little, but she seemed to be even weaker. Lin Jun, do you still remember the 3 trials of Phoenix that you showed me? Forget those. Those are all lies. No, that's true. Feng Qingwan looked up at Lin Jun. It's my destiny to meet you. This is my love trial. It's hard to escape from it. I can't escape from it. I won't leave you, and you don't have to escape. Lin Jun held her body tightly. Kiss me, Lin Jun. If you like me, since the love trial can't be avoided, I also want to try the taste of being loved. I haven't tried it since the day my mother passed away. Lin Jun only felt that his eyes were sore. He lowered his head gently and kissed Feng Qingwan's pale cherry lips. The lips were sweet, but very cold. The long eyelashes moved rhythmically, and Feng Qingwan's face was flushed. After a long while, she opened her eyes and gently pushed Lin Jun's shoulder, letting Lin Jun let go of her. Help me up. Lin Jun helped Feng Qingwan to stand up. In the green tree, she was as beautiful as a person in a painting with a wreath, but it seemed that she could be gone with the wind at any time. Looking at the parasol tree with nostalgia, Feng Qingwan looked at Lin Jun. Will you forget me? No, never. Then promise me, keep this tree, let it stay here forever. I promise you, Wanner. Don't say any more. Let me see your injury, okay? Lin Jun was going crazy. No need. Feng Qingwan stood up straight with Lin Jun's arm and looked at the sky outside the parasol tree. Lin Jun, my last trial is coming. You have to remember the promise you made to me and never break it. Chapter 5:25. Lin Jun thought that it would still be Mantis leading them this time, but he didn't expect it to be the other way around. 2 groups of people arrived almost at the same time. The one on the left was Lanka from Lantis Empire, with hundreds of Lantis Empire's warriors. The one on the right was Gennaro from Rakshasa Empire, with about 200 Rakshasa people. Lin Jun groaned inwardly when he saw the 2 of them. Both of them were top-notch experts. He had already proven that on Sky Island. At least in a one-on-one situation, Lin Jun thought that it would be very difficult to win. With one hand around Qingwan's waist, Lin Jun faced Gennaro and Lanka. What? Do you want to be enemies with us? Gennaro whistled. No. Lin Jun, don't think of this as our country's action. Lanka and I were just hired by the Zerg and received their commission. You should know this very well. So we want to kill you and the woman in your arms. Lanka also said with a bit of playfulness, Lin Jun, I really didn't see that you have such ability. When we were on Sky Island, I thought that this woman and Yi Hua had an affair. Even if it wasn't for now, she would definitely be Yi Hua's in the future. I didn't expect you to come out halfway and intercept Yi Hua. Ha ha ha. If Yi Hua knew about this, he would definitely die of anger. Then let's just let him know. I have already recorded this and sent it to the dimensional universe. I believe Yi Hua will definitely see it. Gennaro and Lanka echoed each other on the side. This way, they could anger the two. Secondly, looking at Qingluan's condition, it seemed like she wouldn't be able to hold on for long. If this was the case, then they could win without taking any risks. Qingluan leaned on Lin Zhen's chest. Lin Zhen, let me go. I can still give them one last blow. This way, you can leave safely. Lin Zhen's eyes were bloodshot. He gently stroked Qingluan's hair. No, I still have the ability to fight. As long as I'm still alive, I won't allow you to leave me. Qingluan, wait for me. He turned around and gently put Feng Qingluan under the parasol tree. Lin Zhen held the yin-yang spear in his hand. Wait for me. Lin Zhen could see that Feng Qingluan's breath had begun to weaken. He knew that she might not have much time left, so he didn't dare to delay any longer. He turned around and came to Lanka and Gennaro with his spear. I only have one request. Before you defeat me, you are not allowed to hurt her. Oh, what do you mean? Lin Zhen drew a line on the ground with his spear. Elemental energy gushed out from the tip of the spear, drawing a circle with a diameter of 10 meters. I'm in this circle, and my woman is right behind me. Lin Zhen, don't dare to say that I'm indomitable, but I will do everything I can for the woman I love. If you guys are men, then come at me. At the very least, before you defeat me, don't take the initiative to hurt a weak woman who's already in danger. Gennaro and Lanka looked at each other, then nodded. Okay. Lin Zhen, your request is very reasonable. We want to attack Feng Qingluan first, but if you lose, then please ask her to kill herself. Okay. If I die, my woman will naturally follow me. Lin Zhen held the yin-yang spear in his hand. This time, he didn't even have a doppelganger. He was alone, facing more than 300 masters from the Atlantis Empire and the Rakshasa Empire. This would be an unprecedentedly difficult battle, but he also breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Feng Qingluan could be safe for the time being, it would be fine. The radiant circle that he drew with his elemental energy was the circle of death for the warriors of the two empires. He touched the space ring and put the star crown on his head. This treasure could use powerful holy light energy to recover the body of the user. Today, it finally came in handy again. A faint fragrance came from behind. Feng Qingluan staggered to Lin Zhen's back and hugged him tightly. Lin Zhen turned around, and Feng Qingluan took the initiative to help him tidy up his clothes. She smiled and said, "So handsome. I've been fighting with people all my life. Today, I can sit here and watch a man protect me. This feeling is like a woman." Lin Zhen smiled and put her back under the parasol tree. This is a rare opportunity. You should be a woman and watch how a man fights. Feng Qingluan nodded gently, and her eyelids seemed to be a little heavy. Lin Zhen's heart tightened. He turned around and strode back to the circle that he drew. He raised the spear in his hand. "Pa, let's fight." Gennaro and Lanka looked at each other and waved their hands at the same time. Warriors of the Empire, let's get rid of this arrogant brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. With the point of their swords, the wind and clouds converged. Behind them, more than a dozen nebula stage experts swarmed forward. In their view, even if Lin Zhen's strength was not bad, after all, his realm was still low. A dozen galaxy experts were enough to kill him easily. These people rushed up, each with a ferocious look on their faces. They quickly surrounded Lin Zhen. Because he didn't have to worry about Feng Qingluan, Lin Zhen put all his energy into the battle this time. Since his rebirth, he had used everything he had learned, everything he knew, and all his spear skills in this battle. 9-layered spear river, immovable mountain, phantom god strike, galaxy field, time acceleration, nothing was left undone. Boom! The meteor fell, and countless meteorite fragments splashed in all directions. 7 or 8 martial artists were involved in it. Lin Jun didn't even look at it. He waved his hand and used the Phantom God Strike. There was a scream, and 3 martial artists were penetrated by the Phantom God Strike. With a successful move, the galaxy field appeared. Waves of pain came from his waist as 3 long swords pierced through his abdomen from different angles. Each of his swords had pierced through his abdomen. Lin Jun's mouth spilled a trace of blood. His eyes widened. Galaxy Star Explosion. The violent star explosion exploded beside Lin Jun. The 3 martial artists who attacked Lin Jun, plus the 2 who just rushed over, all died in the star explosion. Lin Jun pulled out his sword. Blood spurted from his waist, but the star crown on his head kept emitting holy light, quickly healing Lin Jun's injuries. There were still 3 strongest martial artists left. Lin Jun couldn't win if he didn't fight with all his might. Armor transformation. Black scales appeared. Lin Jun waved the yin-yang spear in his hand. With all his strength, he smashed a martial artist into pieces. Pooh! A spear pierced through Lin Jun's chest, almost brushing past his heart. The strength of a galaxy stage expert couldn't be completely blocked even with armor transformation. Without waiting for Lin Jun to counterattack, another galaxy stage expert's sword fell like lightning, cutting off Lin Jun's left hand. The remaining 2 martial artists were the strongest among the dozen or so martial artists. His chest was pierced, and his arm was cut off. Lin Jun wasn't afraid at all. His right hand fiercely grabbed the spear martial artist behind him, not allowing him to escape. At the same time, he opened his mouth. Gravity explosion. Dark star gravity. He didn't need to stretch out his hand to release it. He could release it with a thought. The saber-wielding martial artist was caught off guard and was pulled over by Lin Jun's gravitational force. Lin Jun's hand grabbed the saber-wielding martial artist and broke his other hand, but he still had his mouth. He bit down on the throat of this martial artist. In its armor state, the black hole beast was also an incomparably ferocious beast. Its huge fangs instantly pierced the martial artist's throat, biting him to death. The spear martial artist behind him released elemental energy from his spear, wanting to crush Lin Jun's internal organs. However, Lin Jun didn't give him such a chance. He pulled the martial artist over with one arm. Even if the spear pierced through his heart, Lin Jun clawed him to death. Ugh! Pooh! Lin Jun pulled out the spear that pierced through his body with one arm. At the same time, he reconnected his left hand, which was only connected by a layer of skin. The wound flashed with white light, and it began to heal quickly. This kind of beast-like fighting strength and vitality left Gennaro and the others dumbfounded. These dozen or so Nebula Stage martial artists were their carefully selected assault team. Even if Gennaro and Lanka were here, they wouldn't be easy to deal with. They thought that they could easily kill Lin Jun, but they didn't expect this kid to risk his life and kill them all. Gennaro looked at the dazzling white crown on Lin Jun's head and suddenly roared. He has a restoration-type treasure. Don't give him any time to rest. All of you, form waves for me and attack in batches. Don't let him recover. Hundreds of martial artists formed multiple assault teams and charged at Lin Jun dauntlessly. Lin Jun hadn't fully recovered yet, but he was greeted with a second wave of opponents. Relying on the recovery ability of the Starry Sky Crown and his own powerful combat power, Lin Jun resisted the second wave. Then there was a third wave and a fourth wave. Lin Jun's body was covered in wounds. His bones were broken, and his limbs were severed. His stomach was cut open. His throat was pierced. At the most serious point, his head was almost chopped off. But Lin Jun had a heart that would never give up. He could avoid harm to the greatest extent. As long as he wasn't turned into ashes or mud in one hit, he could continue to fight. Spear, fiendish light, claws, teeth, spiritual energy. Lin Jun's body was a weapon from head to toe. One by one, the martial artists rushed over and fell down one by one. These martial artists weren't like the low-level martial artists of the Bug Clan that could be supplied in an unlimited amount. Every one of them had gone through hundreds or thousands of years of training to become a Nebula Stage expert. If they were taken to a primary universe country, every one of them could become an emperor. 50 people, 100 people, 150 people, 200 people. The light circle that Lin Jun drew was a land of death. Everyone who entered had no way to leave. And Lin Jun, that demon-like guy, was almost killed every time, but he came back alive. Gennaro, who had been watching the battle from the back, had a gloomy expression. He said to Lan Ka, if we don't destroy that crown on Lin Jun's head, we'll never be able to completely kill him. That's right. Do you have any good ideas? Of course, but I need your cooperation. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go.